Hi everyone, it's us. It's you. Did I put everyone in the right boxes? I did. Fantastic. I should have checked that before, but that's what you get. Trash is in the name. It is Gentlemen Strangers time, and that means it's time for fun, adventure, and the deadly dance of. Well, that's the deadly dance of death. I hope I'm a better writer than that. So, it's kind of a Halloween special, which you can tell because of our fabulous costumes. Just go with it; they'll think we're in costume. Actually, Zoe does have. See, so take that. Yeah, so it's kind of our Halloween special, but in any case, we are doing something a little spooky. We're leaving London, which is pretty spooky. Kind of spooky to be in London, but it's very spooky to go out of London if all you've ever known is London. So, um, I feel like there must be more to say, but I can't think of what it is. I'm not going to mention helps and hinders because the thing is, if I mention helps and hinders, someone in the chat will say, "Have you fixed help?" But if you want to help us or hinder, then my personal PayPal. Okay, everyone. It's a very long journey to Witch Cross. I can hear in someone's background the sound of someone playing Triangle. Is this part of the game, or is he talking out of character? I don't know. Stop now. Okay, so it's a very long journey. Thanks to the exceptional organizational talents of Vida, you have made the best of a very long journey. It doesn't take you long to get to the Sussex station of Crawley. Unfortunately, Witch Cross is not connected to the rail network, so it's time for a carriage. And it is long and uncomfortable 5-hour ride. But it is an amazing thing how you step on the train at one of London's gigantic terminals, and when you step off at Crawley, you are breathing a completely different atmosphere, not just in the literal sense. How much quieter. And you have a very long time to think and talk. I mean, obviously, you have 5 hours. If you would like to role play in the carriage, you're more than welcome to. Mr. Spider, obviously, the purpose of your visit to Witch Cross is to find the same Wilhelmina Constantine mentioned in Watts, and enlist, if you can, her assistance translating inscriptions on the door. Have you made any kind of copy, rubbing, or just manual copy of the writing on the door?
I think a little of both, probably.
So yeah, if you would like to, have a pre-arriving in Witch Cross strategic chat, that's absolutely my.
I should like to know in particular how everyone has dressed to travel.
Oh, that's a very good question, actually. Of course, none of you know each other's faces, which is the design of the gentlemen strangers to each other. So it can make these sorts of things very difficult. That's a very good question, is.
Well, thankfully for our boy Anwar, the disguise is mostly a big hat. And so he's just in his usual out and around doing some mischief getup with the hat pulled down low against the whatever sun there may be, almost Indiana Jones-esque. If Indiana Jones was a Indian origin grave robber.
I would much prefer that film.
50-50. Not on the Indian origin thing, I don't think, but definitely the grave robber.
Bring us a Desi Indiana Jones.
So I think Mr. Lurk is probably going full cowboy mode. Cowboy hat. He still has the, bandana around his face. But I don't know if he misunderstood the assignment, but he was told that there would be horses involved. So he is full, like, riding chaps, boots with spurs. Like, he is ready for riding horses.
Nice.
For the love of God. My big question, I guess, therefore, is Mr. Leech.
Okay, I feel. So I'm right in thinking we're going to the like rural countryside.
That is correct.
Yeah. So Leech has some roots there. So I would say relatively similar of like long cloak, sort of probably like Wellington boots. Were those a thing back then? Some
Yeah.
form of farming boots. I doubt they would have their plague mask on because, well, they will in London. But as soon as they get into the countryside, they feel more at home. They don't. I feel like they have the plague mask. It's part of the doctor thing, but it's not. It's more of a. They really don't like the air up there. It's much cleaner in the countryside.
Yeah.
So they will probably have some sort of something where it's just their eyes.
Are they getting on the train bemasked?
I think so.
In which case,
Actually, it's pronounced witch cross.
I will not be corrected by an American. Quit the game. I'm leaving. So in Witchcross, Mr. Spider is going to suggest that getting on the train is a sort of separate affair, and in honor of our boy, Mr. Slide, because Mr. Spider has obviously, done all the things, bought the train tickets at separate times, sent someone in to buy a ticket, gone in, booked them at different hours, put them in a little folder, like even scuffed the edges of one to make them look really obviously different, because he will not be followed. Mr. Spider is a little paranoid. He will have got tickets for separate compartments. He'll have gotten Mr. Lurk a second class ticket with visiting permissions to the dining cart. He'll have put Mr. Leech and Mr. Hound in steerage in honor of our good buddy, and he will sit in first class. And he will stay in first class. He shall read his newspaper. He will have his mask off. Once he has snuck aboard the train, then he is just simply a London gentleman travelling, which is a much less obvious thing. Because the gentleman strangers leaving London all bemasked is a big thing. Us leaving London sort of separately is less of a big thing. And then he'll put his mask on before he gets off the train at, you have told me, you just told me, Crawley.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. So yeah, you're in the carriage, and you already know that it's going to be confidently evening by the time you had. And after an interminable travel, do any of you sit up front with the driver, Mr. Lurk, for example? Are you sitting up front pretending you're riding a horse? Of course, riding them. Do any of you take in the fresh air, or do you stay in the carriage?
Oh no, Leech is out in the fresh air.
I mean, Leech is a country mouse, right? So
Yeah.
this is very nice.
Also, They're trying to stay as far away from Spider as possible because they're freaked.
Oh
They're-
Yeah.
yeah.
Mr. Lurk is afraid of machines. Not afraid of machines. He's just gonna sit tight.
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm going everywhere. I'm going up and down the train, wandering.
Is
Do I have my dog?
yeah, I was
Can
just
have
gonna
your
ask, is
dog.
Burke here?
Burke can be here,
Yeah.
absolutely. No.
He's freeload. They can't stop me.
There's nothing
Yeah,
anyone
apologies.
can. That's a weightless.
Another
dog.
reason why you were put in steerage.
It is a weightless and infinitely small dog. So it's So you arrive in the evening, and the
I'm so
approach.
sorry. In the carriage ride on the way to the house, Mr. Spider will have knocked the dog off the chair with his umbrella in a kind of not on the seat.
So yes, you are
Noted.
you know, Mr. Leech, you know when you're not too far from completion of your journey, because Witch Cross is in the midst of the Ashdown forest. So as soon as arable countryside gives way to old forest, you know you cannot be far off. And of course, because it's a particularly dense forest, the evening is a little darker. And the trees are swimming in an ocean of mist that hangs a foot or so. You arrive in Witch Cross, possibly the very furthest thing, though not geographically, conceptually, from London any of you could have imagined. You are very surprised that there is anything or anyone of note. It's not that the place looks particularly ramshackle. It's just that it's a very small nothing. There is a rather ancient looking church, some way from the rest of the village, implying it may once have been larger. And your coach stops outside of an inn, which might be a rather grand way of calling the village pub, but it's called the Axe Flame, and the pub sign features arms Constantine. That's picked. As soon as you've disembarked, taken what luggage you may, the coachman is already unhitching his horses. And actually, although the village is very small, the inn, which must be at least 2 centuries, is quite large. It is actually a coach house, or at least bordering on a proper coach house. There's no proper stable there anymore. They've probably let that fall into disrepair. But the place is on stories. It's got quite an extensive. So there, in all likelihood, are rooms. And it's evening, and it's quite dark. So as you can hear from inside, there are people that low murmur. And you can see in the distance a rather large shadow in the clearing. It's not lit, but it can only be a
Very well. I suppose we Mr. Spider will stride into the coach house with all the confidence of a well-to-do white man in the Victorian era.
being quite well to do, walking in as a group does attract a certain amount of attention. It's not exactly everyone stops and stares at you, but it's certainly, this place isn't on the way anywhere. In fact, it's on the way to Crawley, but so it's quite odd, you assume, for people to come here. But people look around, show a bit of curiosity. They go back. And you can see landlady eyeing you up. Good evening.
Good evening. Room and board for 4, if you'd be so kind, landlady.
Ooh. Will that be 4 separate rooms?
If at all possible.
Oh, I should say it's possible. Let me. I'll have to have my girl go and sort out a couple of the rooms. Perhaps I can interest you in a drink, maybe something to eat.
Mr. Spider will
sounds
do the
good.
cursory glance to the others, but I imagine they're all like, food, yes. All day
Yeah.
travel bad.
Well, what are you after? Something hot or cold?
Oh, hot, I think.
All right, it's lamb stew, right? Take a seat.
Do you have any bones of the shank that I can give the dog?
Yeah, I'll bring him over.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're sat down, and not too long later, landlady and a girl of about 12 who looks very much like her daughter comes along and gives you all plates of stew, lays down half a loaf, not the freshest bread in the world, but not stale, and a bowl with a large lamb shank bone with a little bit of meat still on it for Lurk to, and he does.
Good. That's all I
Uh,
want.
Now, well, enjoy your dinner. What brings you all the way out to Witch Cross of all places?
We understand you have rather of a marvelous manor house.
Oh, the old Fawny Rig.
Yes.
I'm afraid it's been a rather long time since that place was marvelous.
Well, we have come to marvel at it nonetheless.
You'll want to be careful.
Oh?
Well, after the fire, the manor house is all but gone. The place is...
Yes. Mr. Spider is nodding along with her.
Oh, right. And you don't want to scare Miss Mina.
Wilhelmina Constantine?
Yeah, poor old dear.
Is there to be a trouble?
Trouble? Oh no, she's no trouble. She's a bit well, she's a bit of a fruitcake. No, she's harmless enough. We all look after her. We all feel a bit sorry for her. Family used lords of this nation or no, she's harmless enough. But she's, as I say, she's not quite all there. We do our best for her. She's up in the groundskeeper.
Oh, marvelous, marvelous.
Anyway, like I said, I wouldn't trouble her. Time she comes in for a scrap to eat. Probably not. I wouldn't rely on that. Might have had a bit of a wasted trip.
Well, nevertheless, we've been sent to check on the manor and on her progress. We've come up from London, you understand.
All right, long way.
A very long way, yes. My associates and I have come to appraise the site.
Well, as I say, I wouldn't go.
Unfortunately, we must ensure that the grounds have not fallen into squalor.
The grounds
they have
fallen into squalor.
Well,
Just save you a few hours of your time, so I can't in good conscience not say better go there. There's 3 or 4 of us know the way to the groundskeeper's cottage, the safest, and we need to bring her some. Maybe you can find one of us to volunteer.
Oh, well, surely if we must go and speak to the lady of the house, then
What makes him so dangerous?
Well, like I say, they're a state of what you Londoners might call.
We can handle a few weeds and it's nothing we can't handle.
Out of interest, actually, as she looks you all over, what kind of, because you don't have a chance to go back to your headquarters, so what load have you all brought with? How decked up do you look? Is she looking at a group of clearly armed brigands, or do you just look like travel?
I will have brought my fine long rifle, and the idea that could be easily passed off as a hunting rifle, likely in a case for transport.
Yeah.
If she's astute of eye, there's probably a couple of pistols hidden within the folds of a long coat. But
By default, I assume unless you're at heavy load, most of your weapons are not available for a casual glance.
yeah,
Unless you
no,
make them so to intimidate her. Doesn't seem like
definitely
she
light
deserves
load.
that. Okay.
No,
yeah,
Ah.
Mr. Spider looks absolutely like just a well-dressed traveller, and part of his performance of London insurance appraiser or whatever is just to seem completely like, I'm just here. I've got a hat.
And an insurance appraiser and his 3 mad friends.
Well, people to do lifting and such.
Yeah, as a cowboy, Mr. Lurk has ropes and, things that he can use to get into places, but that just look like normal cowboy stuff.
Well, we were told that the area would be in some amount of disrepair, hence my associates have clearly come prepared for fallen trees and beams and debris and such. But if you think there is reason that we might need a local guide,
Well, I'll please do excuse my don't mean to. It
Dear-
sounds like you've never been here before, and
dear woman, I have found that the landlord or landlady of a local tavern is often the finest source of information in the entire region. You're invaluable to us.
that's most kind of you to say. But well, if you need anything, you know where I'll be. Holler if you.
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Indeed.
Have a lovely. Shuffles back. Her daughter several instructions regarding the and perfectly serviceable. Want of is its chief vice. This place seems to be immune to the charms of anything exotic. But it's perfectly palatable. Long day of whatever sandwich. And as you eat, Mr. Lurk, I think, is the one to notice. Ever since conversation, the landlady, there's been a gentleman watching you. Not at all subtly. Not in the way, Mr. Lurk, that you would watch someone with a design to not be. He's got his hand on the handle of a pint mug, staring. Got a pipe hanging. He doesn't seem to have taken a draw out of it for some time, so the tobacco is just in it, gently sizzling away. He looks faintly.
I'm gonna take a sip of my cup and just mutter to the group, we got somebody watching us, and do a little, subtle head maneuver.
Yeah. How close is this man sat to the door, Luke? Given the nod.
He's not at all on it. He's right in a corner near the fire.
He's curious about us, but is not in any way going to prevent us leaving.
someone should probably go and see if we can be of any acquaintance.
You know, Mr. Hound, I was just thinking the same thing. Why don't I ensure our table is nice and secure? If you need to go to the water closet or something, I'm sure we can keep an eye on Burke.
Certainly. I'll stand up. I'll find some way, even if it's just to go and look at a wall fixture or hanging, just to draw nearer to that table. And then as I stand near it, address the person and say, "Can we be of any assistance to you, sir?"
Well, I very much do.
We just seem to have piqued your interest. I appreciate being out of towners as we are. Could just be that, but figured it was right to come and make sure that nothing was amiss.
Out of towners, sight around. Out of towners who were taken in old Constantine. And that interesting.
Then I was heading to the bar. If you want to go and join my friends, I can buy us around.
I'm all right where I am.
Small table. We'd struggle to all get round it.
I have something to say.
Well, if there's something amiss with the Constantine residence, then perhaps we should know. Or you're not the sharing type, sir?
Right with.
Have you seen something there?
Know your business. Tangled up. Have a quick chat with the poor old bird. No, mad as a March hare, but she's harmless Constantine.
I don't know much about the history of the family. I'm mostly here to do lifting and pruning.
Wrong uns.
What flavour of unsavoury?
I know what you London. Think we're all simple.
I spend a
we're
lot
all-
of time. No. People reckon I'm simple too. I don't exactly come from well-to-do heritage.
Need to know two things about me. Don't lie. Not a super. Believe what my eyes tell me. I always have. I believe the stories heard from my father and my that lot. And I won't blame you for laughing to hear it. But there's only one word for that. Wizards. And there's no good ever come. Now, as I say, Miss Mina, harmless as they got a scrap of magic about the place. I reckon you do evil and unholy things in a place long enough, it seeps bones of. And I've seen some things in the mist that never clears around that. I was a toddler when the fire took it.
What started the fire?
They talk about how the Constantines used to traffic with demons.
I'll mirror the cross as he does it.
What's your business?
Checking on the estate. A little further than that. But I will tell you this. I admire the courage of your conviction in telling me your suspicions. And I did not smirk even once.
Oh, you did not. You know what I think? I think you got read. Careful. Wrong.
You are not.
Mina scares easily. Harmless. He looks 100. And again,
We'll be sure to take due care and not upset her. Right you are.
half clear. Great. Cottage. That's where you'll find her.
All right.
And if in doubt,
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
all the warning I can give you. Best of luck.
And you, sir. He'll go to the bar, purchase 5 drinks, 1 to be sent to that gentleman's table, and then head back round to the group and relay everything he's just been told.
Just in time, he was starting to. Chat. I'm sorry if I've been cutting out. I think it's to do with Zoom. There is one button I can press to stop that happening. I know it still happens slightly. I have no other buttons I can press to stop it happening.
Oh no.
So that's the only button I have.
Press it again. Press it a few more times.
If I press it again, it will unpress it, unfortunately.
How many toggle flips in toto?
7. I don't know. So hopefully it's a little better than it was. But that's as good as it's going to get. I don't know. I'm using a microphone far beyond my capability to understand.
A microphone out of time.
It's out of time. It's from at least the next century.
Hmm.
Oh yes, so Mr. Hound returns to the table and relays everything from the gentleman.
Oh, fruitful conversation then.
Yeah. Very concerned about the lady of the estate.
She must command a great deal of loyalty from people who also fear the establishment.
Curious about him saying not to bring anyone in the village to get involved with the affairs. Especially, we've already been offered a guided tour, so to speak.
We were hardly offered it. I believe that was more of a put off, as it were.
Well, we've got a direction now.
Indeed, good work, Mr. Hound, especially since you shall have to be our pathfinder if the ground is so unsteady. Although what we're
One of us
expecting to
will
find
be.
from this woman, I'm not sure.
So, I think this might be a good time to discuss. You just kind of, you found this paper and there's this book, and then you were like, we have to go to Witchcross. Do you care to illuminate a little more for us?
Yes,
We can do it up in a private room if you'd prefer.
I absolutely do remember why we're here. 100%.
And as Mr. Spider, of course, remembers that the reason that you're here, and I'm sure
sorry.
Izzy will forgive me for mansplaining, because I am about to say things that Izzy knows perfectly well, is here because while perusing through the alleged Enochian lexicon that you had acquired from the auction many moons ago, you found it to be not particularly convincing. But there was a note slipped inside it. You do not know who from, or indeed who to, but it mentioned that if there is an authority on this language remaining in Britain, then it is with someone with the initial C who lives in Witchcross. And that led you to Pratt's Peerage, and that led you to Witchcross and Fawny Rig.
Okay, so we're like trying to find this old woman because we believe that she can help us sort of like translate this book.
Quite simply, Mr. Hound, I have come here because I believe Miss Mina can help me with a translation issue.
All right. And what do we do if there's more going on at this creepy old house?
Well, I imagine she'll tell us.
All right.
The village seemed to have a ill view of the establishment, but none of them have warned us that we're about to be jumped upon by magical brigands or some such. If I understand our predicament, Mr. Hound is far more likely to warn us of falling branches and sinkholes than matters more esoteric.
Was this to your satisfaction?
Me? Oh,
Yes.
I just want to know what I'm getting into before I jump on that horse, so to speak.
And what about you, Mr. Leech?
I don't like the mist.
What?
You don't like the mist.
He mentioned the mist, the ever misting mist. Don't like it.
Well, we live in London, Mr. Leech. The fog is near
Exactly.
constant.
Exactly. I hoped we would come here and it wouldn't have more fog.
Mr. Leech just likes to be able to see where he's going.
Well, he's chosen a bloody silly mask to do that in.
No, he likes to breathe nice air.
If it
Well,
helps,
he's chosen a bloody silly mask.
if it helps,
to do
it's
that.
a if it helps, it's a shin height film. The air is otherwise quite
Okay.
clear.
He's just very doesn't like the air. Anyway,
Yes, and as Bowman points out, it's also at least it's not smog.
That's true.
You hail from rural climes, do you not, Mr. Leech?
Yeah.
Originally,
Not
yes.
around here, but yeah.
I wonder perhaps if some of that rural superstition hasn't rubbed off on you.
I can say the locals like to keep it within ranks. And outsiders are not welcome.
And what a gaggle of outsiders we make.
I will say she sounds quite withered, and I don't know, maybe she needs some medical attention.
Yes, I imagine your professional opinion as a doctor will be quite invaluable.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like a doctor around here.
Yeah. I'll see to her if needs be, but we'll see when we get there if we can make it through the fog.
Well, if
Yes.
if the fog turns out to be some sort of impermeable barrier, we must find a way through. I will not have wasted 7 hours of my life on a carriage to the middle of nowhere for nothing.
Oh. Some might say being in the rural countryside is not a waste at all.
Yes, I'm quite confident, and I wonder if those people have ever heard of libraries.
Country air is meant to be very salubrious.
We do have, like, books in the countryside.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I wasn't calling you illiterate. I'm just simply saying one cannot walk from a restaurant to the London Library in the space of 5 minutes if you live in the middle of Ashburton-on-Cleverforth.
What I like about Mr. Leech is that on the scale on which Mr. Spider lives his life is a binary between first class and steerage, and Mr. Leech is distinctly non-binary on that scale. It's simply impossible to tell whether Mr. Leech is an upper class, well-to-do sort of person, or in fact some sort of poor.
It's those damned regional accents. I'd have them all banned. Like, you're rich, but you're from Yorkshire. And what does it mean?
So, what's the plan, gang?
The plan is get some sleep. Tomorrow morning, head out. Head out into the great
Mist.
beyond. Into the mist.
Yes.
Which I have a feeling Lucas is annoyed because he's described a sort of slightly atmospheric mist.
Well, I
and
mean,
we've heard Stephen King's The Mist.
Well, I mean, I'm slightly sad you're not going in the evening because it's a Halloween episode.
Oh, we could scope it out.
Yeah, let's go scope it out.
What I
I'm sure
like
that
to
we all
hear.
got plenty of rest on the train and in the carriage.
Oh,
We
this
need
is
to stretch our
fantastic.
legs.
This is what
Yeah.
I'm after, gang.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been cooped up. We get ourselves some
I'm not having
some
a.
fuel for lanterns.
I'm not having a. Ooh, this is Call of Cthulhu. Ooh, let's call the police. They'll deal with it. No. No.
I mean, if anything, Leech was going to just wander around the countryside for... They weren't going to sleep. How often do they get to the countryside? Not.
That's
So,
true. Plenty of time to sleep when you're dead.
You can sleep in a tree. It's fine.
Ash, what I love is that I just read a book wherein there are some antagonists is not the right word, but like they do antagonize the main character an amount, who wear plague masks and just kind of show up like to go, "What up? I'm here. You're doing it.
Ooh.
You're doing it wrong." No, they're more like, "You're doing this wrong. Stop
Oh.
it." And like that is, I imagine Mr. Leech just lurking around, showing up at this house like, what? It's me, it's Mr. Leech. Stop
You
it.
got any disease in here?
Yeah, stop. Quit it. Be
I-
more healthsome.
Drink some tea. Put some
Mr.
honey
Leech
in it.
comes in. It's not very salubrious, is it?
So I guess this is the gather information portion of the score. Not much of a score, but yes. So what
We're gonna beat up this old lady and steal everything she has.
Yeah, I think we're going to kick down the door.
I suspect you'll have a very easy time of it. She's not very well. Okay, fantastic. So you're going to head up and just get the lay of the land. As you approach the slightly mist-veiled shadow of the mansion, it resolves, and you can see that it is indeed visibly a ruin. Though it's not fully collapsed, you can tell that it has been completely hollowed out by this fire. Given the age of the grizzled bar patron that Mr. Hound was talking to, in his description that he was very young when the fire took place, you would probably guess that it had happened at least 40 odd years. And the estate is quite large, but no part of it is in any kind of order. Mr. Spider and Mr. Hound in particular will know from having dealt for so long with the eldritch world that regardless of its many mysteries, it is considered that the simple idea of a ghost, that is to say, the surviving spirit of a deceased person, is not considered to be a real phenomenon. But if anywhere in all of England is haunted, it's Fawny Rig. There is around it a strange quality to the air. Not just the mist, which seems to the distress, undoubtedly, of the Leech, not only to be thicker, but also to rise, not quite to cloud the vision, but it looks like it might whip up higher to your body. Breathing in these damp vapors surely would not do anyone any good, particularly an ill and middle-aged spinster. No doubt she is living in very, very bad way. There is a wall around the estate. It's in shocking repair. There is a large, a very grand, once very wrought iron gate, but it is one side alone is closed, the other is off its hinges. Either because it hasn't been fastened properly or because it cannot be. But strangely enough, though, you've heard now from two of the villagers that the place is, to an extent, looked after. No one seems to have made an effort on behalf of the gate, the most basic form of security Lonely Lake Hope have.
Does this path take us anywhere near the manor, or are we?
I've assumed that for the time being, you're outside the gate at the moment, contemplating it.
That's fine.
You can see with the long grass and overgrown trees that a path. There is an area that's been carved out, as the old man said, scythed, that does form a path that wends away to the left.
To be honest, I don't think there's much more we can. If we start delving into this, we're not really scoping this place out. We're just striking out for it.
Mr. Lurk, you have a particular way of taking in a scene.
Mhm.
And something is not right about a silhouette. What you had assumed to be a statue or a fountain, something on that scale, it's a clear inch to the right from where it was when you looked at him.
Oh no. Oh gosh. Okay. Um hmm. I am going to keep eyes on it and nudge whoever is closest to me. I'm going to aim for Mr. Hound probably. He seems like he could punch a statue if he needed to. Uh
He could shoot. He
and-
could shoot a statue,
yeah.
even better.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Um, and say, "This ain't right. Something out there. It ain't right." While I'm looking at it, it doesn't move. It was just like when I took my eyes off it is when it then relocated.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh.
There is
Oh,
there is what I would describe as a fluttering at its edges, as though it were wreathed in fabric that was disturbed by the wind, which would be very reassuring if there was a single slightest whiff of a breeze.
Oh. How big is it? Can I tell? Like, is it like human sized or is it like bigger?
The reason that you suppose statue or fountain is because you do think it is about human scale. The mist is distorting your sense of distance a little bit, so it might be bigger or smaller than that. But yeah, you would say about human sized.
Because there's part of me that's like, could it be the old lady? But why would she be out in the middle of the night? Okay. So it's just like fluttery.
For a moment, there was. I wouldn't even call it as extreme a movement as fluttering. An undulation at the edges. Just for a moment, that straight edge just wavered a.
Mr. Spider, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Anything like what, dear boy?
This thing out there with it's a statue that wiggles on the edge.
A statue that wiggles on the edge. No, I can't say I ever have.
I don't. Do you see this? You see what I'm talking about?
I will look out towards the mist.
You can certainly see several silhouettes that look like they could be a statue, but nothing is presently moving.
There is a quantity of statuary in this garden, but
It moved, and I know it did.
There.
Something out there is wrong, and we can either turn around and ignore it, or we can go out and deal with it. I'm fine with either one of those. Whichever you all think is best.
Well, I do believe you that there may be something. We obviously know that this place has some occult connections.
You all jump. Something has just walked behind you, sufficiently close to ruffle your cloaks.
I don't like it.
Mr. Spider does go from genteelly saying, well, I can't say whether there is or isn't anything, but to spinning round, wishing he had fixed his gun arm, instead.
I was gonna say about the gun arm. Could I have tinkered with it in the?
It takes a downtime action.
Does it take? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, healing is slow in this game.
You turn around bravely. And there's nothing there but the surrounding Ashdown forest, that same shin deep mist. The village is gone.
Now, Mr. Hound,
Mm-hmm.
I understood when we walked through that gate there to be a cluster of lights yonder that represented a small village. Please tell me that we have somehow been turned around and that I'm actually looking in the wrong direction.
Unfortunately, I cannot in truth give you that information.
Ah. Well, I thank you for your persistent honesty with me, Mr. Hound.
You, Mr. Spider, you and you alone, clearly hear Mr. Cutter saying, "We need to get out of here."
Cutter? No.
Right?
No, we're supposed to be nice to the old lady. We're not cutting anybody. What has gotten into you, Mr. Spider?
I think perhaps you are quite right about this mist. It certainly does queer things to one.
I told you.
We should,
All right.
I
Go in.
believe, press on.
Regardless, listen, Leech, regardless of your stance vis-a-vis being purposefully engaged with the supernatural, there is, for all intents and purposes, a little old lady stuck on these lands.
How important is this book to you?
Very.
Then I guess we know what our answer is.
And I think it's worth noting that Mr. Spider, even though he hasn't fixed the mechanism on his gun arm, like he still dons it as part of his attire because it helps keep his forearms straight. It's just good practice to have. And although he hasn't mounted the pistol in it, I think the mechanism still can slide. And I think he is kind of popping it as he walks in a kind of like, it's only a very subtle little sort of clicking sound.
It's his fidget spinner.
He's doing it because he's a little stressed
It's equivalent
by
of a pen.
the circumstance. Yeah, it's his clicky pen, or it's his fidget cube. Just like, it's not very loud, but it's a sort of little pop and zing as he's just kind of walking, because he's trying to think about what the most reasonable thing is for them to do. Right now, it is correct. It is find the gatehouse or the groundskeeper's house. But he is there is that faint click as he walks.
Yeah, it's very strange that the village has disappeared. You are still standing on the road that leads you from the village to the manor. It's just that the road now stops where you're standing.
Yes. I say we press on, because I believe going back would be either folly or impossible. And I don't wish to find out which.
Right, you are.
So,
Try the gate.
do you cross the threshold?
Yep,
I believe we must.
I do.
I hate this.
Me too.
I mean,
I'm a
I love
silly
it, and it's
dum-dum.
great, but I am much more of a coward than Mr. Lurk is.
Oh,
He, of course, forges ahead.
nah, Leech is a coward.
Leech is getting the hell out of here.
Well, no, the only thing keeping Leech there is the fact that he might have to give medical assistance to someone. And
True.
so,
That damn Hippocratic oath.
So, you go through the half opened, not quite on its hinges gate. There is, as I described, a path that's been mowed down that wends a little way to the... I'm assuming you're following it, unless I'm told otherwise.
Keeping to the left.
The
It's
whole...
worth note, I'm going to be following Mr. Hound, so if he deviates wildly, assume that Spider does.
So, I'm going to do something controversial now. And I'm going to roll an engagement roll. Why is he doing that?
Rude.
I'm going to roll 2 dice. For no reason.
Okay. It's fun to roll dice for no
What have
reason.
we got? We've got a 6.
Hooray! We succeeded at our invisible engagement.
You did not want that to. So you continue on the path all together, and then you come to a problem because the path splits.
Go left.
You are standing at the center of a crossroad. There is a way left, a way right, and a way forward.
Left.
Always left.
Yeah, that's what the gentleman in the pub told me.
I'm trapped with a bunch of lefties.
Anarchists! My goodness.
Anarchists.
Republicans!
Some sort of socialists.
Ugh. So, you proceed. The whole atmosphere smells like ash. Ash, I'm sure you smell lovely, but I actually mean the remnants of a fire.
Actually smell like ash.
Oh, wow, what a coincidence.
It comes with the name.
Oh, right, just for free. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you get it when you're born.
No decades of wind and rain have done away with the fact that this place smells like it was on fire a day.
Huh.
And there are figures in the fog. Mr. Lurk and Mr. Hound, you both see them first. And I think that for you both, for different reasons, there's no mistaking these figures for trees or topiary statues. These are persons. They're probably a good 10 meters or yards away from you. And they all have a very similar profile. Not a very remarkable one, but they certainly look like menial labourers. They're carrying various tools. One is carrying a sickle, another is carrying a set of long pruning shears, hoes and rakes and so on. There's perhaps half a dozen of them. They're standing almost as still as statues, but not quite. And you can hear the footfalls as they bodily turn to face you. So still, they are nothing but silhouettes.
Are we walking like toward them, or are they like off to the side? Like, are we beelining straight for the group?
You're not going. Well, you're sort of going towards you. They're ahead of you, but they're some way to the right. So on your current path, you won't meet them unless they start veering towards you.
But we would like go past them.
You would go past them on your current course.
Perhaps the spectres of whatever garden staff were here.
Yeah, I think we should just keep...
The figures break into a run towards you.
Oh, fuck.
But
Get out of my gun.
they never The light does not reveal anything. I mean, the only light at the moment is the moon, because you haven't told me you lit a lantern that you're carrying one. The light never resolves them. They seem immune to it somehow. But they fall, and I mean they bodily fall, first to their knees and then forward on their faces. And as they do, they collapse into cinders. And I'm not being metaphorical. There's that very specific, I'm going to describe it as a sort of a squeaking, cracking sound that really charred wood makes when it snaps and breaks. And it is like these figures, though you've just seen them running, as men run, were made of nothing but the remnants of a fire.
Heavens.
Were they... Could I tell if they were running at us in a, like, oh my gosh, like, people, come save us, or running at us, like, without their gardening implements bared?
I think Mr. Lurk is a sufficiently observant practitioner of the clandestine spying
He knows when
arts.
people are here to fight, yeah.
They were doing neither. They were running from, not to. There was no acknowledgement that they'd seen you. Some of them dropped their implements before they started running.
Mr. Lurk,
Yes?
you're looking thoughtful.
These people, they were... Something spooked them, which I know is funny because they themselves are spooky, but something... It's like a bigger fish type situation where you have something even scarier that scares the scary thing. They were running toward us, which means that whatever it was that scared them is that way. They were running from something toward which we are heading. That's... Let's just be aware of that.
Perhaps running from the source of the fire.
Londoners! This is a shout coming from behind you. An old man holding a lantern. You recognize the outline of the man from the tavern. You're going the wrong way. I wouldn't come out here at night.
Good day, sir. Good evening.
You said bear left, didn't you?
Yeah?
Where have you-
You've immediately come the wrong way. Come on. Let's get you back to the pub. You can come out in the morning when it's light.
Sir, where have you come from?
Same pub you were just at minutes ago.
The same one that seems to have vanished?
No, sir, it has not.
Look back towards your village. There are no lights.
There certainly look to be.
Hmm.
I
Well,
think
it's
we'll be carrying on if it's all the same to you.
all the same to me, sir.
But thank you for coming out to check on us.
Yes, we very much thank you for your time.
The lantern brightens, and the flames engulf the man, who falls silently to the ground, cracking into long burnt charcoal.
Good instincts, Mr. Hound.
Nope. I thought he was real.
What?
That was as alarming as anything.
Well, why didn't you go with him then?
Didn't seem the point. Job needs done.
Oh, I
We either
thought
do
you-
it now or we do it tomorrow.
I thought you were being frightfully perceptive.
No, wasn't an ounce of intuition there.
Oh, good luck then, Mr. Hound.
Onward.
Onward. What an interesting question. Turning back from the curious apparition of the gentleman in the pub, you have another choice before you of directions to go, and I know what you're going to say. Left, keep left. How many times are you going to keep left, however? Because presently, many roads stretch out before you, all mown evenly in the grass and debris, forking and branching, twisting, curving. To stay left would see you walking almost in a circle back to where you have come from. The only ways forward are, strangely enough, anything but left.
This yes. This route that we are currently on is part of the garden.
Yes.
Is it all just long and short grass, or is there anything beside us that's a rock or a path or?
It's all sorts. It's all sorts of things. It's as though the place has been ransacked somehow. So there's all sorts of discarded implements you walked past, and upturned, ancient and rusted, rotten. Say rusted, it's made of wood. Barrow at some point. All very toppled statues. There are plenty of places where shrubbery has been allowed to overgrow and its roots have become hazardous. But certainly you can deviate from the path. The path is, as all paths are, merely a suggestion.
Well, I think Mr. Spider will sort of very gently drop to one knee, and with just the metal edge of his clicky fidget slider will scratch across into a stone or a path, flagstone or something similar.
Okay.
Mr. Hound.
Yeah.
Burke, the good boy that he is, he's got a pretty good nose on him, don't he?
He certainly does.
Could he smell the old lady? I mean, I know it smells like ash all over this place, but could he maybe point us in the right direction?
Typically, for tracking something like that, he would need to have had a whiff of it first.
Right, good point.
I say we continue left, and should we become turned around, we will know that we have reached our destination again and reconsider. This place is clearly interfering with our perceptions, and I do not care for it. Mr. Spider stepped to the left.
Step to the left regardless of the path, because left is still left, even if the path is lying to you.
That's where his brain is somewhat at.
On you go. And after 20 or so seconds of stepping carefully over whatever might be in the exceptionally long grass, you actually find a mode path, a single mode path in the. And you can see at the end of this path, not even 20 yards from you, a small and rather run-down looking cottage. Pathetic light in one. It's as though the place is lit by, at most, a small cluster of candles, not even a proper.
Hound, were you given any instructions on how best to approach the house?
Don't frighten her.
Easier said than
No.
done.
Hmm.
Nevertheless. Approach the house.
Yep, you approach the cottage. The single floor, perfectly square. Rather humble. But quite a good perk if you're the groundskeeper. Get to live alone. Or optionally with wife. It could be quite charming had it been better kept up.
Nevertheless, Mr. Spider rattles with his with the apparatus in his sleeve, and then will rap smartly at the door.
After a couple of seconds, there is a knocking on the door from the inside. It's not like your smart rapping. You were rapping perhaps with your knuckles. This is pounding with the side of the hand, that duller sound. 1, 2, 3.
Mr. Spider will knock back in that pattern. Knock, knock, knock.
The door swings slightly open, not properly latched. Your knocking was open it a few inches.
A very gentle push.
Already the air in here is different to the slightly cindered air that you've been breathing. It's fresher. It's colder. Walking into a rural church, that kind of ancient, sweet scent of air that is just kept different from the air outside it. Perhaps the door opening has blown out whatever candle, meagre as it was lighting the place, utterly dark.
According to Twats, what's the form of address for the current heir of the house?
That edition of Twats, which, as I said, was updated a year ago, cited her as a spinster. She's no longer peerage, so it's Miss Constantine.
Miss, very well. I think, given that clearly the house is very dark, Mr. Spider will look to the others.
Though you do know that the village calls her Miss Mina.
Yes. And will light his lantern, I think.
You can see as you've entered into the small kitchen. Again, I say small kitchen. Actually, you all live in London. It's not a bad kitchen.
Our palace.
But it's you know already that she receives meals from the village. Clearly, this place is not still used. There's a rather old looking range, very small. I mean, it's more or less a furnace with a single hob upon an old iron furnace, long disused.
Miss Constantine.
As you proceed through the house, I say through the house, it's not very big. The next room that you come to, a humble sitting room. Really little more than a chair. You get the impression that the main room in this cottage was probably the kitchen, since that's the one with the... And in the chair is sitting at least years old human remains. The term is probably something like mummified. This person has died 2 or 3 years ago by Mr. Leech's cursory look, and simply no one has discovered them. The clothing. It was once nice clothing, but obviously had been let to go into disrepair. And presently it shrouds a corpse.
Mr. Hound.
Yes.
When did your friend in the tavern say he last brought food to Miss Mina?
Oh, I don't think he stipulated a date, did he?
He said he goes a couple of times a month.
A couple of times a month. Didn't specifically say.
Well, he surely would have mentioned if his last visit had been years
He,
ago.
he also said that he has a nice chat with her.
Yeah, he speaks to her and everything.
Tell you he was not speaking to her.
Maybe she doesn't speak back. Maybe it's all shouts through the window, you know? He doesn't want to spook her. That's entirely possible.
Well, if this is Miss Mina, then who's flying the plane?
Mr. Leech, have you a means by way of figuring out how this soul died?
It'll be tough, but I can take a look.
Fantastic stuff. So, an examination of the remains proceeds. Mr. Leech.
Yes, hello.
I might suggest perhaps a study or a survey, whatever you think.
Study, survey.
Yeah, Ash, if you'll recall, Luke doesn't tell you to roll anything. You have to suggest what roll you want to make.
Yeah. So one of the habits that a GM gets into really easily in 99% of systems is asking for a roll. I try not to do it, but there are some times when it's pretty obvious what it should be. Make a rec roll. Just smash up this corpse.
Yeah, tinker the corpse.
Grind. Oh, Ash.
Don't care for this.
Consort. Probably do a survey. Yeah. I mean, study and survey. I feel like.
I mean, it's survey is more like an overall scene, and study is something more specific. So they could both work, but they'll give you slightly different information. Survey would be like, what's the circumstance in the room? Study would be, is there anything on the corpse that might be suggestive of a manner of death?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, we'll have a look at. We'll study the corpse then, because.
Okay.
Surveying it, I don't think will give too much away.
Yep.
What is the
controlled standard?
Yeah.
I can offer you a devil's. Oh, you got a 6. Don't you need any devils from me? Okay, so I've got. There've been 3 rolls this game. They have all been 6s. So
we are rolling so well.
I'm sure that will last. And you know what? You're rolling really well, and Roll20 famously hates players, so that's fine. So that is in fact 666 that has been rolled overall this session.
Oh no! Don't say that. Oh.
So, obviously this is a highly withered corpse, so there's not much you're able to determine. But there's no sign of injury. There's no sign of physical trauma of any kind. She's sitting in the chair. You would suggest one of the many things that can kill you sitting in a chair, some sort of heart failure, something like that. It seems as though she died of perfectly natural causes. You would say within the realm of 2 years.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, I know it's a bit grim, but is there any sort of like animal or decomposing insect?
I see.
Sort of
On her?
On like, is there evidence that there would have been like life other than her? Like, what I'm trying to get is there other like.
Are you asking, has she been eaten by a crow or did she have a cat? These are 2 very different questions.
No. I'm asking, is there other life? Like, is there evidence of other life than her?
Ash, you're putting this in such a weird way. I am going to just say no. No, there isn't. There isn't.
Okay.
You are confident, not having germ theory in your head, that there is nothing living in this house but the 5 of you. Burke does not like it. And Mr. Hound, this is actually quite interesting. For reasons that best not gone into in polite society, Burke is perfectly familiar with the smells of a death. Though it's true you don't traffic in corpses this old, they will be of no use to anyone, except for making paint or what have you. But, medicines. But, Burke has been uneasy. You had to coax him into crossing the threshold with you if you wanted him to cross into the house with you.
No, I was worried about this, and in fact, I was specifically drawing as little attention to Burke as possible because I thought this might be an outcome. But if he seems like weirdly like I'm wingmanning for my own dog, the moment he seems resistant to the threshold and like crossing over, I will have said to him, "You keep watch out here, boy," and stepped inside, like making excuses for him.
He is emitting a sound you have never heard Burke make before, because Burke has all of the confidence of a mutt of some kind raised on the mean London street. He is making a sound that communicates to you he is afraid for you. He is trying to coax you back out of the house. He's not sitting guard. Normally when you tell him to stay, he'll plop his ass down and just wait for you to tell him to do something else. He is circling, pacing. He's not sticking more than his nose into the house. But when he does, you can hear this particular kind of whine at the back of his throat. He is soliciting from you your presence, as far as you can interpret.
I will at that step outside, again hoping that it can be disguised as he might have seen something. I want to have a look and see what he's seen. I'll happily leave this spooky house and stand with my dog for a little bit.
Yeah, he relaxes the moment you're fully on the other side of the door. At that point, he will sit still and let you fuss about his ears.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Spider, I don't think you're going to get your book translated.
Mr. Spider has given up on the corpse. As soon as he was finished talking to Mr. Hound, he was already.
I don't think she's going to make it.
Yeah, he's not confident. He's moving his lantern around the room, looking at any personal effects, signs of decoration, anything that indicated a person was here.
I like that. Yeah, would you make me something akin to a survey?
A survey, or I guess it must be a survey, given that I think study is a little bit too specific if we haven't found anything to study. But I would also say, studying things with close scrutiny, like he's trying to pick up the details.
I would say study will take you as far as, if you did a study, the widest I think we can extend study would be something like looking at the mantelpiece.
Oh, then survey it is.
Not that there's a fireplace, but there is a shelf on one wall with various trinkets on. So a study might extend to that.
I'm going to spend stress, and I'm going to survey.
Oh yes, do spend stress, everyone, as well. Stress is a resource to be used, and I want you all traumatized.
Oh
no, what?
Oh, I didn't spend stress.
You didn't. You don't seem to have done, but you got a 6 again, guys. This is really spooky. So unless you want to try for a critical, which seems very likely in under the current circumstances.
No, I shan't push my luck.
Oh no, you can't roll worse than a 6, can you? I mean, if you roll one more die to spend the stress, you might get a critical, or the worst you'll get is a 6.
Look at those last 3 rolls. 6, 6, 6.
Not good, is it?
It's
not good.
It's the best. If you are devilish.
Oh, only a 5.
Wow, only a 5. Good lord, the streak is finally broken. Okay, so there are knickknacks upon the shelf that. In fact, no. I'll do one better. You're not even looking at the shelf. Something in the corner has caught your eye, and that is a rather beautiful end table. The sort of thing that you would certainly expect to be in the bedroom of someone called Lady. A beautiful. It has a granite surface. The wood was once beautifully varnished, and upon it are little trinkets far lovelier than would ever belong in a cottage. It's humble. So certainly this could have been Constantine, because the trinkets are beyond the usual mean.
Yes. Exquisite. Miss Constantine, we only wish to talk with you. We have not come to disturb your house.
Mr. Hound, as you've been sitting with Burke, paying very close attention to all of his motions, there's a sudden change. He enters what I can only describe as a war footing. There's a way that he plants himself when he's awaiting the go command from you, but he's ready to go. And you can see, just on the edge of seeing, the mist is certainly thickened by. Just on the edge, looks like 3 or 4 emaciated hunting. These hunting dogs are not like the figures that you saw before. These hunting dogs are catching the light. They are flesh dogs, as one would hope. Yes, that sounds horrible, but most dogs are flesh
Halloween.
dogs. They're flesh dogs. Happy Halloween. Yeah, absolutely. And they are clearly scoping you out. I say they're emaciated. There's a sort of a mania that you see from hungry.
I won't adopt a complete war footing as Burke has done, but I will be sure that rather than being slung over my back, my rifle is solely brought to hand and held across, muzzle low. Not that a dog would necessarily recognize that gesture, but not trained on them necessarily at this stage. I'll also not see fit to alert the other strangers indoors to this as of yet.
There's a strange sound as you half ready your firearm. It is a metallic emanating from your firearm. Like a pin is loose. Something's rattling where it shouldn't be.
I will keep my eyes somewhat on the dog, on the group of dogs.
Yeah.
Bring the rifle up so that it's more at my eye level.
It perfectly collapses. Every component of your weapon falls to the floor as if you had meticulously taken it apart, swept the pieces off the surface.
I will utter a command to Burke of inside.
Okay. Normally, there would be no question of this. But I am going to have to ask you to roll dice.
Okay.
This is obviously a command, but I can hear other arguments if you like.
I have no reason to do anything other than command.
Inside.
I mean, you could. I was about to say you could attune, like to get whatever spooking Burke to just bugger off for a minute. But yeah, so yeah, you can make a command. Of course, you are rolling at 0 dice, so I might
A
suggest.
quick consort roll by Burke a pint.
I
Burke,
have
the old mate.
I have a devil's bargain for you.
What is the
He
bargain?
he did just give him a bone earlier, if that
True, it's true.
sweetens the deal.
The devil's bargain is this. Whatever Burke's reaction is, so whether you succeed or fail, the change in his behavior will be enough to coax the pack of dogs closer to you, to make them more.
I'll take that. That sounds fun.
Fantastic. Have a die.
Wonderful. Typical standard.
This is going to be risky.
Oh, risky standard.
Let's keep that streak going, shall we?
That would be a great time for some 6s. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it could happen. The lowest you've got is a 5 so far. I rolled a 2 earlier, actually, on the engagement roll. I didn't count, so. A
That's
3.
3.
So. Burke, something in him is not responding to you. He is already responding to something you're not quite sure about. Your command is very clear. He knows how to go in a direction you're pointing, and he knows the direction you're pointing in. It will not be done, and the firmness of your command and his certainty that it is not going to happen conflict in him to the point where his courage breaks. Burke scampers off into the
there's
mist.
A not small amount of the kind of rough yell of someone trying to keep an animal in check with that twinge of panic, looking after the retreating Burke, turning towards this now closer pack of beasts.
They one of them does a sort of a not quite full bound, really have the energy to do, but they come. 3 of them step towards you. The 4th does a keen bound, but doesn't get much more than a head's length ahead of the others. But step by step, though they do not resemble wolves in their physiology, because they're hunting hounds, their behavior makes you think of how you've always imagined a wild wolf. And
I think
they are
this point,
cornering.
right? Am I still? Have they cut me off from the door to the house?
But you are able to go in 3 salient directions. The door is right near you. You can go off tearing after your hound, or you can go back the way you've come. The path ultimately led you here. They haven't cut you off from either of those because they've come in from deeper in the ground.
Oh. I think at this point I've got to do strength in numbers, and I'll step within the building.
Could we hear him yelling?
Oh, for sure,
from inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah, then I would probably be heading toward the door just to see what's going on and probably catch him as he's coming in.
Yeah, and you can hear the increasingly aggressive growling of these hounds.
We got company.
All right, we need to deal with company?
We need to scare them off.
All right.
The moment you're over the threshold, they stop approaching. One of them visibly does this. Not moves with its legs, but it rears back a little.
It's interesting. They're wild. They've scared off mine. They're penning us in. Leech.
Yep.
You have an assortment of concoctions.
That I do.
Anything to render these creatures inert or chase them off?
Something in here, probably. Do I have like a? I feel like I would have some sort of like a magician has like a flash.
Yeah, you could have you could have something that makes a noxious smoke certain to upset a dog's nose.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was something that makes like a really loud.
I have demolition tools if we want that.
Let's just start throwing things at the dogs.
Just explosives, yeah.
I feel to scare away wild animals is scary, loud, bright.
Loud noises, foul smells, big things. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to set the forest on fire.
No, but I mean, you can easily have a vial of some sort of reeking gas that you hurl on the floor, and
something that would make a bright light, maybe, and
okay,
smoke would be great.
Okay, so what you're trying to do then is to get them to go away. There are quite a lot of roles I could ask you to make to do this. It's in some senses it could be a command. You know, you're getting them to go away. That's the outcome of what you're doing.
Okay.
It could be tinker if you're swiftly mixing a couple of chemicals to improvise a device. It could be wreck if you're trying to make a loud noise with your chemicals. I mean, these are the three I think that are the most obvious.
I think probably tinker, because Leech is not liable to have mixed chemicals. Just
sure, that does make a lot of sense. Okay, so you're getting it around. This will be quite nasty. So you're mixing it up, and you're check it out. So make me a tinker. I can give you a devil's bargain if you want a bonus die.
Am I allowed to know what the devil's
bargain? You must always know. A devil's bargain is something you know all of the details of, so that you can fully commit to it or reject it. Or you can also negotiate a devil's bargain. And I am the devil. The bargain is this. No matter what the outcome of your attempt to get rid of the hounds, the chemical you make will be very successful at its job, but it will also partially waft into the house.
No, I'm going to stick with my resolve, and I'm going to be a good tinkerer.
Tinker away.
Tinker and then risky?
You can push yourself for an extra die. That just entails spending 2 stress.
Yeah, let's do it. So 2 stress, yes.
Yep, 2 stress.
And
unless, 2 stress.
Risky.
Risky standard.
Risky standard and bonus die 1.
Yep.
Yes. Submit. Come on.
Okay, that's a 6. So you mix up a test tube. You go, it's this one, and you yuck it over. And because you rolled a 6, you just about managed to get the little stopper on, so you didn't end up yucking the liquid all over yourself as you throw it. And it lands on the gravel and bursts. And because of the pressure that had built up in the tube, it was. And he probably didn't do them much injury. We're not talking about a gigantic, huge number of shards of glass, not a nail bomb, but certainly the sudden loud noise, the reek of the sort of very sort of gunpowder smelling smoke that comes out of it, enough to persuade the hounds that their meal will not be immediate. And then, although you're fairly sure the blast from this very minor explosive should not be enough to do so, the door slams shut. Bearing in mind the door pushed open into the cottage, so it's like the door has been drawn shut.
Well, dog's gone, door shut.
Will you all behave?
And then a second later, knock, knock, knock from outside.
Oh,
A visitor.
well then.
Am I closest to the door? Because
You, Hound and Lurk are all in the small kitchen.
am
I
I
at this
opening
point, no. I will kind of like step aside, look to Spider, and gesture towards the door.
Miss Mina? He will put a hand on the door.
There's a knock again, slightly faster this time. Knock, knock, knock.
List of bad ideas for today. And Mr. Spider will open the door.
The spider opens the door. Standing in front of him is a woman in her 40s. She doesn't at all look 100. She looks rather well dressed. She looks like she's dressed for a country walk. She nods to you. Says, Wilhelmina Constantine, quite at your service. And there, I think, we shall take a break.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah. It's 10:02, so I guess let's take 10, make a cup of tea, do whatever you got to do. We'll be back at the top of whatever hour it is, wherever it is you are. It'll be 5 p.m. here. And we will see you then. Look after yourselves. Yeah,
It's fine. You can go.
Okay, I went. We're back. Hello, everyone. And this time
Was
we
this a
weren't.
mic stream?
We weren't talking about Muppets.
I thought so. I just because I need to get this out. I thought when you asked him to get you your Gengar, I thought that was like weird British slang for something. I didn't realize it was literally the Pokemon Gengar.
Literally Gengar.
My mug that was upstairs that has the face of. Get
Lit-
me old Gengar, will you?
Literally
The old
Gengar.
China.
We went back home from my mum's birthday at the beginning of the month, and Izzy and my little 6-year-old, almost 7-year-old nephew were just going on about Pokemon, and my sister and I were looking at each other like, they're talking in code.
if you have a 6-year-old or 7-year-old boy in your life and you just find the thing he wants to talk about, you could keep him distracted all day. I started the day talking about Pokemon, and then Luke ended the day building Meccano with him and talking about trucks.
First of all, it was connects, okay, and secondly, we were making various machines to fight each other with, and he just kept winning. I'm going to introduce that boy to the concept of a D20 and a character sheet, because you can't just say you've won. You have to find out. So the next time I build a Connects monster truck with a fire laser, there's going to be stats. I'll set that boy right. My sister has been negligent. Okay, so the door opens and there stands, ostensibly, Miss Wilhelmina Constantine. She doesn't look at all dishevelled. She looks absolutely fine. She looks very, very well dressed.
Miss Constantine at last.
Yes, you've been very persistent.
Deeply. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. We are the gentlemen strangers. We've come a long way to speak with you.
Yes, then shall we do so somewhere a little more comfortably?
Whatever you wish.
She gives a whistle, and Burke bounds up to her.
I immediately love this woman.
She gives him a bit of a fuss between the ears.
Yeah.
He's a very good boy. Now,
Hound, when did you lose your dog?
Not so long ago.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a little scared, but we had a chat about it.
All right.
Yes, if you'll follow me, gentlemen. She snaps her fingers, and from her fingers, a ball of blue flame erupts and hovers by her head. There's no point me carrying a lantern, since you're already perfectly aware that I'm a magician.
Yes.
And you step out into quite the loveliest and most well-tended garden that you've seen. The manor is in a perfect state of repair. This house, that's never been on fire in its entire existence, stretches out before you. And she walks you up the path from the now rather healthier-looking groundskeeper's cottage, and up through a rather nice topiary garden to the front door of the manor house, greeted by a man in a butler's. I know it's rather late, but can I interest any of you in a nightcap?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Fidget, we'll serve ourselves. Thank you very much. Good night. And she leads you through into a rather cosy drawing room. Now, the House of Constantine has diminished, as Burke's peerage, peerage hinted, and you can see gaps in the walls where pictures would once have hung. Well, welcome to Fawny Rig, gentlemen. Rather long time since I've entertained visitors.
Yes.
Is everything that we've experienced in the grounds just a means to keep people away?
You have surmised correctly. Yes, it is a series of elaborate and rather expensive illusions.
Yes.
I've
Quite
never
frightened the villagers.
I've never seen it work on a dog before. Quite interesting. I suspect poor Burke here was confused that his eyes and nose were reporting different.
To be fair, I was too.
Now, your persistence in coming here has convinced me that you are worth my time, and has intrigued me. There is... Gentlemen strangers, you...
Yes. I doubt our reputation has spread far beyond our little corner of London.
But you were able to enter my grounds without an explicit invitation. myself.
I was not aware that was a stipulation.
No, and you really would like a brandy?
If there is one in the offing, we don't wish to impose.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's my customary nightcap.
Yeah.
Now I've already introduced myself, Wilhelmina Constantine, and you are the gentlemen strangers, but I do not know any of your names, except, of course, for young Burke here.
They call me Mr. Spider.
Mr. Hound.
Mr. Lurk. He's going to tip his hat.
Mr. Leech.
Yeah. Sobriquet. Very clever. So, she pours you all drinks. Your health, gentlemen. What brings you all the way from London?
Mr. Spider will try and likely fail to keep the slight gleam of enthusiasm from his eyes, because he's aware that we're having a sort of negotiation time, but he's also very excited and wants to talk about his books, which he will pull the satchel from his back, where he's had to sort of stow it so that he could fight potentially if we got into a situation, and sort of lifts it up on the desk. A number of these books came into my possession some time ago, and I've been working my way through them. But the thing that caught my eye most specifically was this one, wherein there was a note in the back, which I believed pointed me directly to your door. But I'm far more interested in what this means for our door. And then he will spread out the rubbings he's done of the markers around the doorway.
I see.
You can read it, can't you?
No. Far too complicated. But I recognize the form.
Yes,
And this is on a door, you said?
it is.
Where?
London.
Obviously London. In a residence?
In a
No, it couldn't be in a residence. It would have to be in an institution.
Why so?
It's a very elaborate ward upon.
Why would it need to be warded if it were not in a residence?
Couldn't put a door like.
That's the problem, Miss Constantine. I don't know.
Well, the door itself may not be remarkable. It could simply lead to a closet. What I mean to say is that what is remarkable here is wards are a rather rare sight. Fascinating. Type is interesting. A hybrid, late Neo-Assyrian, but of course Enochian glyphs stand. And you say you're having difficulty. What is the difficulty?
The difficulty is all that I have is the door and the book, and neither are revealing their secrets.
Oh, well, the book will not be of any use to you whatsoever. Entirely a work of.
Yes, that is what I came upon once I read through it cover to cover. The note was all that I took from it.
What did the note say? This note that pointed you all the way to Witch Cross.
He will flip the pages all the way to the back and then just pull it out. From there, it was simply a matter of checking the house alongside the period reviews and a train and a carriage ride here.
It's rather strange.
That such a note would be in a work of fiction.
No, I rather mean that this book cannot be more than 28 years old. This note refers to a Lord C. It hasn't been a Lord C since Napoleon was alive. Oh well. So, you believe that I might be able to assist you translating, writing upon.
I should be very much obliged if you would.
Yes, that should not be a problem at all. We should negotiate payment. No, I do not work pro bono.
No, of course not. What are your rates?
London.
I'm afraid that's not in my gift.
So you are not overly affrighted by my little labyrinth.
Fascinated would perhaps be more the word.
Might I suppose, as I said to your good friend Mr. Hound in the pub earlier, like before.
Yes. In fact, we find that the locating of such things to be our primary concern.
There is a matter that a correspondent of mine in London has informed me of, which I have been considering how to deal with. I loathe the city. And I'm not entirely certain my labyrinth will remain quite intact if I'm absent. But perhaps if you were willing to act in my stead in this matter, we would consider it quid pro quo as regards Occian.
Name it.
In your dealings with eldritch kind, have you ever encountered anything called the Vrachnatherios? Or you might have heard it called a nightmare.
I cannot say that in my readings I have come across such a thing.
Fascinating, and they all need to be eradicated. It is, in short, how would one describe it? It is a dream that has attained a certain degree of independence, or at least it is a spiritual form that has wrapped itself around a dream. And unfortunately, it's contagious. Left unchecked, Arachnotherios can spread throughout entire city district. Finally glutted, passes in whatever world it originally came from to do what it does there. And the havoc that it wreaks in the meantime is quite considerable. Somewhere as densely populated as London, well, does not bear thinking about. My contact has seen signs of a, shall we say, a pupil, which is still growing potentially in the mind of a particular sleeper, possibly the collective minds of a small family. He not quite as adept. If you would be willing to deal with infestation, if it is confirmed, I would consider payment in kind.
How does one stop a nightmare?
How does one stop anything? Knife, heart, bullet, head. Let me clarify, Mr. Spider. I'm not talking about murdering some poor sod while they. I am referring to. Have you ever participated in a psychic transfer?
Cannot say that I have.
Ah, ghastly, but absolutely necessary in this case. You would venture directly into the mind of the afflicted, do battle within the dreamscape that was present, and hope that it has not advanced to the stage where the Vrachnatherios is in full command.
Before tonight I would have deemed that quite a fantastical notion, Miss Constantine, but given what you've achieved with the grounds of your house...
A paltry thing, easily taught and difficult to master.
Then we shall do our best.
Well, I shall take the attempt as payment in kind, you may not succeed. But we shall see. Either way, I will work on this. It should take me a fortnight, perhaps. It's not simply a question of translation, or a question of rearranging a mathematical formula. And my Enochian is not quite. Besides which half of this is a fortnight. And I will write to you when I have the result.
Yes, we shall shall leave you on our address.
And
You speak this fluently.
how do you mean?
This Enochian, this language.
Not at all. Not. It's not a language.
Is some sort of cipher or set of signs?
It is a means of writing used in several languages.
Oh, it is an alphabet. A
Yes.
shibboleth.
It is an alphabet in the colloquial. Are you much of an Egyptologist at all?
In the manner that any gentleman is.
The signs can be arranged to form words. They can also be arranged to form pure semantic meaning. Also be arranged to form mathematical or grammatical relations. As I say, it's rather complicated.
Where did you learn such a thing?
I read a very good deal. Of course, I was trained.
You understand that it's a very difficult position for us. The pursuit of these great many books was a challenge for us, and I knew when we set out upon this challenge that a good number of them may end up being fanciful nonsense rather than helpful.
Alas.
It was a risk. It was a risk we took. But where does one get such books of lore?
One's ancestors write them.
Well, I can hardly berate my ancestors for that.
The grizzled gentleman if I might flatter myself, convincingly portrayed earlier, was right about one thing. Well, several things. But the thing he was particularly and crucially correct about was that my family are indeed, for want of a better term, wizards, and have been for a very long time. And over many generations, we have accrued knowledge not easily by those without our particular There is no university to teach us these things, no correspondence. We learn the hard way, Spider, as you no doubt have been learning what is out there and what to do. And, happily, we have a rather good habit of all day.
To show you my notes sometimes.
Mr. Hound,
Yes.
if you'll forgive an impertinent question, what is it you've been doing?
In what sense?
She seizes your hand in hers. Something. Or not. You've been exploring something.
Yeah. one or two pursuits, not with the same degree of academic prowess as my good friend Mrs. Spider here, but there's something I'm dabbling in.
Be very careful, Mr. They dabble in
Oh,
us, too.
I understand.
Mr. Spider sips his brandy from a Gengar mug.
I have all the Pokemon.
I caught them all.
My family has been hunting the Pokemon since ancient Babylon, and we will not stop now.
I mean, it's actually kind of fitting because everything she's doing is peak Gengar. He's a ghost who mucked around with people's minds. Like,
Perfect.
I'm like, oh shit.
Top vibes.
He also, like, his sort of classic thing is like nightmares too, so it's very fitting.
Even better.
Completely
Yeah.
fitting.
Ah, my ancestor, my great-great-uncle Gengar Constantine.
Gengar Constantine. Well, we get the expression, me old Gengar. It's Cockney rhyming slang that we still use to this day.
I assume that you have, Actually, I don't assume anything. Forget that. I was sitting there the whole time while you were doing it. I know that you have booked yourself rooms at local. You'd prefer somewhere a little more rooms to spare here.
Might we?
Please do. I seldom have guests, and I seldom have overnight guests. You'll find that the manor is, in reality, considerably less than I portray it to be to unwelcome.
It's good to know that we are welcome then.
Yes. Have given me no cause for alarm.
But
Besides
that is
which,
all-
I've made perfect friends with Burke, and I'm quite certain he would not do me any.
Burke and I may have significantly different perspectives on the world, but I've found him to be a fairly excellent judge of character.
Feeling is mutual.
Mr. Spider looks like he is itching to get out of the chair and look at the occult manor house. And I think the moment released from sitting politely with a drink.
Could I possibly interest any of you in a tour?
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Spider, you may find my house rather more boring than imagined based on the defences. For the most part, it is simply a house with a rapidly decreasing inventory of antiquities.
Yes, antiquities are all fascinating, but I do believe I saw a slightly rebuilt gable end. I want to say early Tudor.
This house is a coat of many colours, and some of those colours are pre-conquest.
Yes. I thought I noticed a difference between some of the outer stonework and the wattle and daub inner walls. An extension, I imagine, of some ancestor.
We have been building this house for as long as we have been building our knowledge of Eldritch. Neither I nor my parents were able to contribute much since our decline in material wealth, but we maintain the place, and there are those to whom it will be passed.
Great houses like this are representative of the tapestried patchwork of England itself.
Very poetic, Mr. Spider. Well, I should very much like to get to bed, so shall we attend to this tour? It would be much better by daylight. She muses to herself idly, and behind the windows the sun appears to rise, illuminating the rooms as if it were indeed midday. That's a little better, although not so dazzling. And the light takes on more of a golden quality, more like that just after dawn. Now, here are all the libraries of text I have that are available, should one know the proper sources of them, though many of them are incredibly... Some are long, long out of... On my personal library, you'll surely understand that I do not reveal to family tomes. But
Quite understandable.
I think you would find a great deal rather interesting.
Mhm.
If you wish to borrow something to read tonight, I shouldn't object in the slightest.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yes, we have Nosferatu. We have Nosferatu today. Nope. She said it. Well, let me see. Mr. Spider has died. and given me the middle finger. That's extraordinary abuse. I don't know how I shall survive this. Or, if you're interested, I have a little text on the very basics of domestic illusion work. This won't help you build anything as elaborate as what I'm using, but perhaps you could use it to spruce up a bit of peeling paint.
Certainly a very fascinating thing. I would be much obliged, thank you.
Over there somewhere. I'm afraid section is not exactly what index.
No, not indexed is fine.
Well, yes, do take a book, as long as you pop it roughly on the same shelf. I am assuming that none of you are thieves.
Well.
But I should warn you, it would be a precipitously terrible idea to take one of these books from... Well, I shall leave you to it. I'm going to get another brandy. She walks off.
She's left Mr. Spider in the library. He does not intend to thieve any of her books, but he is going to not sleep.
You can sleep on the carriage on the way home.
Yeah, that's what the rubbish carriage is for. I'm in a magical library. Can I live here? Yeah, I don't care what the rest of everyone is doing. Mr. Spider is going through everything he can while he's here. He has his little notebook and he is just covering it in notes.
Does anyone else take an interest in the library? There are not just books in here, there are also intriguing objects.
She might have a bit of a nosy around for anything on the alchemical side.
Oh.
Any
Anything
artifact or something.
anything on the alchem... There is a section on such things, and they run the gamut from being pretty much just chemistry to what you would consider old-fashioned chemistry, alchemy, but done in a kind of an Isaac Newton-y way, where it's very much the precursor to chemistry, to even further, the kind of alchemy that is simply sorcery with mysterious powders. Achieving magic. Better magic through chemistry, I believe. Phrase I'm...
Okay, they might peruse that.
Okay. So
Maybe to
there's
help someone else.
there's a text. It is concerning the efficacy of different chemical reactions under the influence of astrological phenomena. What kind of chemistry does better under a full moon or when Mercury is rising?
That's
Uh,
really interesting.
It is at first, in your educated opinion, codswallop. But the second half of the concerns chemistry that is only possible under certain astrological conditions. And much of it is written with terms you are utterly unfamiliar. Mr. Leech, I know that your education has been, to a large degree, practical, surgical, but I think you probably have picked up a little bit of Greek and Latin, just enough to understand the technical terms for things, so that you can read medical texts, which I'm sure you sometimes do. This uses terms you've simply symbols you've never encountered. You can't even begin to name some of the apparatus, the diagram.
How strange. There wouldn't be a. No, I would. I'm just thinking like there wouldn't be any of said apparatus in the vicinity or anything.
No, but no, but there is a writing desk. Undoubtedly, you could ask permission to make a few notes. Probably what she does.
Yeah, I think Leech would. Yeah, I think he would write some things down, especially on the certain, possibly things he doesn't understand. So maybe he would write something down about the things that can only be created under certain astrological things, and then a question mark next to the things he doesn't understand, and then he can possibly ask about or research that later.
There is a formula that catches your eye that is for a substance which is called, though it's called in Latin, but it is called Star of Silver. Claimed that this metal is as strong as steel and light as.
That will go in the notes.
Yeah, does anyone else take an interest in the library, or is it just Mr. Spider and Mr. Leech having a go?
Is it still like daylight outside, or did that fade when we? Okay.
Full daylight.
Then I think because Mr. Lurk, he's not a fucking nerd. What he's gonna do is he's gonna go outside. Are the grounds, are there like flower bushes or like how like gardeny and pretty and like well kept is it?
It is worth pointing out that outside it is nighttime.
Oh.
The daylight extends only inside.
Oh, it didn't. She didn't like actually make the whole like space.
No, actually,
sunrise.
and actually, looking in through the library windows, you see your compatriots poking around in the dark, as far as you can tell.
Well, then I guess I won't go outside. I will.
But certainly, it's interesting to open the door and see how dark it is, and then kind of, what's going on here? Why am I dazzled here and it's dark here?
Yeah, he'll definitely do that for a couple, 30 seconds or so until the novelty wears off. And then I think he's probably just gonna go to bed.
So yeah, Mr. Spider, you're up well into the night, reading about. What are you reading about, Mr. Spider? You're muted. Can't hear you.
I'm bloody not.
Oh, okay, you're not now.
I'm here. I'm right. This is unacceptable.
Right,
What
I
do?
couldn't hear you at first.
Unacceptable. Mr. Spider is aware of his limitations in this space, which means he is going for anything and everything that looks more beginner friendly. Like he is not trying to leap into, you know, that thing that people do where there's a big library and they're like, secrets of the grand masters of the ages, because he's like, that won't help me. That's not helpful in this circumstance. He is looking for actionable linguistics and primers. He looks for anything primer, introduction, cursory notes upon, because he is looking to open his mind to the library and channel as much knowledge into it as possible, because he doesn't know when he'll be back.
There is actually something I might suggest that might interest Spider that Izzy might have forgotten about.
Hey.
Because Mr. Spider, you may remember in the finale of season 1, you defeated a magician in the Fury, Kingsley Donovan.
Oh yeah.
And you liberated from his effects his spellbook, of which only the titles of these spells are comprehensible. For to make a refreshing breeze. And this comes to your mind as you're browsing, when you see a book. Seems about getting on for 100 years old at this point, which is called, whose short title is Upon the Encoding of Magical Text. And you know, being a discussion of the methods used by magicians to inertly record, etc. And it has suggested methods for being able to, because spells are quite complicated to write out. You can't just make up any old thing. So it discusses different systems for noting down spells.
Because of the nature of Nerd Squad being alone in the library now, unfortunately, Mr. Leech is now stuck in a room with Mr. Spider.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm thinking.
At the exact moment that I think Mr. Spider goes, "Oh, quite right, I hadn't noticed that before."
At the very least, you are able to note down the title, roughly how old it is. So although you can't take the book with you, perhaps you can hunt it out when you're back in London.
Yes, but he's also going to make some cursory notes.
Oh, you're welcome to make cursory notes, and certainly you're able to get the concept into your head. I think you're able to easily understand the very broad merits and flaws of each system used, even if you don't come away with much more of a comprehension of.
Yeah, I think a lot of titles and author writing down of anything that's not clearly a handwritten document.
Can you give me a study roll?
I can. That's a thing I have. Oh no, I've been logged out. Coming back. And I think I can represent Mr. Spider spending stress on this, if only because he's not gonna sleep tonight. Let me in. Let me in. Character sheet.
So this is actually a really interesting, while Izzy's doing this is actually a really interesting example of how stress can be used. It's called stress, which I think is actually a very unhelpful thing to call it. I might instead call it something like grit. Because Mr. Spider is not doing something he's desperate to do. He's actually doing something passive. I'm asking to find out if he's lucky enough to find a thing. Stress is an out of characterism that you are spending, and it can represent your character putting in particular effort, but it can also represent you placing a lot of importance on a role and wanting your character to succeed at it. Because what stress does is it essentially represents your character's finite luck. That's an interesting example of how stress is used. So you rolled a 4. 4 is a success at a cost. I think the cost is going to be pretty meager. I think the cost is going to be this book completely absorbs your attention. I'm not going to let you make any other study roll.
Fair.
But the thing that you get, you spot something in the long introductory chapter of this book, which is that there is a system I am fain to discuss, which of course is that most espoused by the late and marvelous Dr. D, which he has called innocuous. Such things are reserved, in my view, for precisely 2 varieties: the rank amateur and the sufficiently experienced to dabble in ancient and particularly dark. Those in between I would commend instead the system I have discussed. Well, isn't that something? And yes, you will at various times make your way to bed. The innkeeper will hardly be hard done by, since you paid for the. I should probably charge you a coin, really, for that. So, yeah, someone spend a coin, please, for the your food and bed. And yes, you wake up. You are awakened, in fact, by a knock at the door from a maid, who informs you that breakfast will be served shortly. You are each asked if a servant can be sent up to help you dress. Do any of you take her up on that offer?
Nope.
Oh no, 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 no.
And yes, you make your way down to breakfast. It's very basic but rather delicious. There's bacon and kippers and toast and edgery. It all seems rather a lot for Miss Constantine alone, and actually she seems to butter and marmalade a single slice of toast and a cup of tea. But she encourages you all to tuck in. My cook, Mrs. Swithers, rarely ever gets a chance to cook for more than me, and I'm afraid I eat like a bird. Which is to say, chiefly in the winter.
Well, don't worry. I'll make up for it for you.
Now, I suppose you'll be heading back today?
I reckon so.
Well, do not feel you have to rush out. I have a few things to attend to. If you need anything, I'm assuming you know how to ring for us. So, if you are here as late as midday, there is no purpose in ringing between 2:45 and noon. Are you likely to need more than one servant at a time?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh, that's
Can't hear you.
You can't
What have you
hear me.
done?
I've done absolutely nothing.
No.
I hear
No,
you.
Izzy. Yeah, I can't hear Izzy.
Oh, I can't
Izzy's
hear
Oh
it.
no,
Oh.
I can see her shouting. Oh no.
Yeah.
Piss.
Oh, there you are.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, we heard you shout the word piss.
Good.
What did you say, Izzy?
He was only asking why that was.
Oh,
I was-
2 servants is disproportionately difficult to compile. The house strains itself when there's 2. I don't know why. I should see to it, but I very rarely need more than 1 at a time.
Yeah, I can understand
Are the servants not real?
The butler looks very incensed. He goes, no, Fidget, it's all right. The servants are perfectly real.
Okay.
A house, Mr. Lurk, a house is perfectly real, but a house takes a long time to build, does it not?
Yes.
Indeed, just so.
This is all very, very over his head. He's just gonna nod and continue eating his bacon.
Do you
think there's-
suspect you will be here for luncheon? You're more than welcome, if so. If not, I can
well,
set you
actually-
up with some sandwiches for your journey.
Then perhaps a quick luncheon before we head back certainly seems to be
Fidget, eat with Miss Swithers enjoys herself. She's going to roast something, I have no doubt.
magnificent. Mr. Spider has brought down 2 books with him and is doing this thing which looks very uncomfortable for him, where he is reading and
What's he brought?
lounging.
What's he brought?
Probably not the book he was engrossed in last night. I think he took a break when morning came. He's done with that, so he's probably gone back to one of his slightly more beginner friendly books that he's fallen into.
What's it about?
I don't know. Magic or reading, language. I don't know.
Okay, fantastic.
Don't look at me like I'm a creative person.
No, the magic reading language.
I'm really sorry I asked for a bit of improv, Izzy. That's so unlike you to do.
Without Bree in the party, you've got to have one idiot. It's me.
Right, My Little Pony reading is magic.
Yeah. He is the party's Twilight Sparkle.
That's not really true. Party's rare.
I'll accept
But
it.
rarity is also a unicorn.
Basically, he's the party's unicorn. I get it. Yeah, it will be a text about reading magical things.
But not the text about reading magical things you were reading last night.
Yeah, it's a different one. He used that to hop into a separate text that has more.
Magister Clarus. Very interesting.
Yes, I've found it quite a distracting text.
Undoubtedly.
No doubt a little basic for you. I chose what I could.
The basics must be revisited continually.
Quite so, quite so.
The problem with dynasties of magicians, though there's only really one left in it. The problem with dynasties of magicians is that it is to us, magic is it's our trade, yes, but magic is akin to our mother tongue. We can so easily foundations of it for granted.
I found very similarly when I revisited my Latin primers in order to study one of the books that we had. You learn such a great deal about the very foundations of the English language just through studying the Romance languages of
I'll have to take your word for it. I didn't get much beyond a Moa Massa Mat.
Really?
Mr. Hound, does Burke need to go for a walk?
You know what? Probably.
I'm gonna get up and head outside.
It's a lovely time of morning for the grounds. Try to work your way all around the house. You'll enjoy yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for breakfast. And he is out.
Not at all.
I must ask before I also go. It's quite hard to get fresh herbs and stuff in London. Is it okay if I walk around your garden and have a peruse of?
Certainly. I'll arrange a gardener for you.
Oh, thank you.
Fidget, if you would.
Yeah.
Very well.
Right, Fidget.
While Mr. Lurk is out with Burke, Burke, really was just an excuse, and he knows that Burke can handle himself, so he's not really keeping an eye on him. But while he's out, I want to look for like flowers, any like flower beds
Oh,
or
yeah.
flower bushes. And while no one can see him, because he is, very unsure, he needs to protect his masculinity. While no one is looking, he wants to just break a couple off or pick a couple flowers. And because we're going to be here for a while, he doesn't know if they'll survive the journey. He wants to press them into his journal,
Oh, I'm gonna
so that he can take them home for Mary.
Well, I'm gonna have to roll a die, aren't I? You're picking flowers in a magician's garden.
Oh gosh!
I feel like if I don't roll a die, something.
Just let him do something nice for his wife.
Look at this current track record; it's gonna roll very well. Flower.
Oh no!
Oh no! We rolled a 1. Ah.
You just poisoned your wife.
Fantastic. So, God in heaven. So, Mr. Lurk does not report for luncheon.
What have I done?
Mr. Lurk does not report for luncheon, and when you express concern that you do not expect Mr. Lurk to be so rude as to miss luncheon, Mr. Hound, you know that Burke went with Mr. Lurk, so you take Burke with you, go and scope him out, and you find Mr. Lurk completely unconscious. He's fallen. He's face up, but he has fallen into a flower bed, completely unconscious. And around him are some not quite familiar flowers, all of which are sort of turned to lean towards him and leer over him.
I think we'll be tracking Mr. Lurk out of that particular flower bed.
Fortunately, you're used to moving bodies. So you hoist Mr. Lurk. Where do you take Mr.
I'm just tickled now by the expediency and familiarity that Hound goes, oh, dead weight. I'm going to take him within and be calling for Miss Constantine as I enter.
She toddles through. You've laid him out. What have you laid him out, like on the floor?
Yeah, floor on a rug or on a sturdier table.
Not my rug.
Did you get my hat? I'm sure my hat fell off. Did you? No, you just left it in the.
Off.
Perfect.
Oh, Mr. Hound, please, there isn't a Persia anymore. Let's take him onto the parquet, shall we?
Of course, if you show me what one of them is, then...
The wooden floor.
Righto. Found him in a bed of flowers, gives a brief description.
Oh. What? They weren't by any chance various shades of red and pink?
They absolutely were.
Oh, that's so good. Would you be so kind as to interrupt Mr. Leech's lunch? I may need his assistance.
Absolutely. He doesn't even move from the spot. He just leans over his shoulder and bellows, Leech!
Leech is like halfway through his luncheon.
Mashing sandwiches into the beak of the mouse.
The beak, yes. Yes.
Come here.
Bag or no bag?
Bag.
Do you carry body bags? Oh, you mean your doctor's bag? I thought you meant I thought you meant a body bag. Why would you mean a body bag, and why would you carry those with you? No,
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Mr. Spider, who is reading over his luncheon, calls, "Do it on the parquet."
It's on the bloody parquet.
Do it on the parquet. There isn't a Persia anymore. That rug's irreplaceable.
Leech is like, "What's a parquet?" It's one
It's
of
a
them
wooden floor.
arcades, right?
Like it's his things. He's just learns it and he's parroting it like he's
Yeah.
known it all along.
Yeah, Leech, don't you know anything? God.
It's this wooden floor here.
So,
This
Mr.
specific
Leech,
bit.
you come across a deeply unconscious Mr. Lurk. Mr. Lurk is breathing very slowly. And Miss Constantine looks rather... She looks the exact combination of concerned and guilty that you would expect her to look like if Mr. Lurk had gotten into her heroin. Like, it's actually awkward for her that this has happened. I mean, it kind of is awkward for her that this has happened.
Does Leech know kind of what?
You could go... Well, make me a study.
I'm sure he would know, like somebody passed out because of a narcotic. A study, okay. Any, what's it, risky or no?
No. Control position, standard effect.
Control, standard, boom.
5. You can see that you lift up the eyelids and you can see just fully dilated. Just, you would think that this person was off their tits on opium.
Where is he found?
He was
On the corner.
He was found in a bed of particularly dangerous flowers.
Right. I'd imagine Leech has something to counteract the effects. Possibly. Or at least knows some way of maybe not bringing him around, but using it.
I don't think smelling salts are going to work, unfortunately. Unfortunately, he seems to have come into direct, ungloved contact with Papazoa cryptomortis, the false death poppy. I don't suppose any of you are secretly in love with him, are you? True love's first kiss is the only certain cure.
I can't say that I am.
Well, that's a shame. It might wear off by the time you get to London, or a few days later. None of you are owed a favour by an elf.
Well, I did know this particularly short fellow, but
Yes?
no, I don't worry about that. Right. Why would you? Ungloved.
He's
What?
married, isn't he?
Is he?
Yes. Ring on his finger and acts with the countenance of a man who has a wife he's fond of.
Oh.
Said with the countenance of a man who does not have a wife he is fond of. Spider.
It's like, what does that mean? Damn.
But I,
Right, but
Zoe, Mr. Spider is a character played by Izzy, which means that at the very least, this Mr. Spider is slightly misogynistic, possibly to the point of being actually gynophobic.
hey,
whoa,
my paladin's a wife guy.
Gynophobic and asexual homoromantic, probably, would be my guess. Spider.
I see.
Hey, I play a wife guy in Emberglow.
You do sometimes play a wife guy, that's true. Those are your two alignments. So, yes, it is a shame. The only other cure I can think of... Mr. Leech, you wouldn't happen to know the recipe for a pill of Tarsus? or have access to an awful lot of cocaine.
Fine, awful lot.
Tablespoon.
Oh,
Enough to give an elephant a heart attack.
no, not quite.
Then your best hope is that he wakes up unless you have access to the wife.
Right. Well,
Or are owed a favour by an elf. Oh, or are there any dwarf-built bridges? No, not new.
right.
Won't
I
be
guess
a
we'll be going
blue
back
moon
then.
until next.
All right. I've got a...
Mr. Fidget, would you please fetch a bunch of lovely flowers for Mrs. Lurk by way of a romantic gesture, and hope he wakes up to deliver them?
Or if we can track down where he lives, knock on the door, lie him out, flowers in hand, little note, true love's first kiss, and then it's his problem to deal with once he wakes up.
My
I strongly suspect, Mr. Hound, that Mr. Lurk has kissed his wife before now.
Oh, it has to be the first kiss.
Who loves first kiss, I'm afraid.
Well, you
Oh,
never
well.
know. These Americans, maybe they're not into it.
Do we still have the list
What list?
of
Of
potential strangers?
replacement strangers. Zoe,
I
next time Zoe rolls up a new character.
I know what Mr. Hound is saying, but I think Mr. Spider's going to say, "Oh, I hardly think we'll have to replace him. He'll wake up in the carriage."
Hope so.
If not, I have several potential replacements we can contact.
This is the lesson, kids. Don't be a wife guy. It just makes you unconscious in a wizard's house.
You know, I
Those
must.
guys are cowards.
You know, I must
Hey.
Barely said
confess.
it.
I must confess, I'm very embarrassed about it.
Oh, I'm embarrassed that he went sniffing around your flowers.
Americans.
Mm.
What are you to do?
embarrassed.
No notion of how to.
There
behave
is
in
an
someone else's house.
incantation I might try.
I mean, yes.
Go on.
If you're not averse to such things, it's a little what we magicians would call on the crude side.
I didn't know dwarves existed until you said it. I'm very open-minded to crude incantations.
Well, they don't anymore. Well,
Good.
not in these isles. You'd have to go far above the Arctic Circle for that sort of. Right, here we go. She fully mounts Mr. Lurk like he's a horse, and she does not ride side saddle because she is a Constantine, and she leans down over him, and she says, "Wake up! Wake the fuck up!" And then she taps him on the forehead with her finger, and Mr. Lurk awakens. Mr. Lurk.
Miss Constantine,
Ah,
I'm married.
yes, we've discussed that. And she,
Hold it.
without any shame whatsoever, clambers right off him, dusts herself down, and says, "Ah, luncheon, Mr. Lurk. I am dealing you level 2 harm, which is drowsy.
Embarrassed.
Oh, I'm drowsy.
Drowsy and embarrassed.
You may, if you wish, resist this effect with spending of stress.
How much stress to resist?
What you do in this particular instance is you
Wait, no, I'm not even gonna. I'm drowsy. I could just sleep on the way back. I'll be fine.
you are quite drowsy.
I'll sleep enough.
Okay, if you wish. That you are entirely welcome to assume that. That is absolutely your
Yes,
prerogative.
it will be fine.
Okay.
It's just magic flowers.
Well,
No side effects.
Leech would like to at least passively observe Lurk.
Where's my hat?
By the way, Mr. Lurk is not speaking as clearly or eloquently as he thinks he.
Did you get my hat?
That was one syllable. Definitely the sound
Snack.
hat was in there somewhere.
Snack.
Open your
Hat.
Follow.
Hat.
Follow my
Don't
finger.
you dare call me that again.
Really, Lurk, it's not on.
Oh,
Hat.
Oh,
Oh,
And your
Oh,
eye.
we want-
no.
Let me look at
It's
the pupil
outside.
quickly.
Perhaps I should fetch the hat. I don't want there to be some comedy of errors where you all traipse out to the flowers and have to. Eventually, it'll be only me left to drag you back, and I do not have the strength for such. And so she goes and returns to Mr. Lurk his hat. After
Does he-
inspecting it to make sure it's not got any of the false death poppy pollen on it.
I know she sent Fidget, I think, to go get a bouquet. Does that still materialize at some point?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Perfect. He will, embarrassed, still he will take it and just mutter a quick thank you.
Good. Well, since you've awakened, you'll probably start to feel a bit less drowsy in a week or so, and then see how you feel after that.
I think we might have taken up too much of your time and your favor, so I think maybe it's probably best we get going.
Oh, you've been quite the most entertaining lunch party I've ever entertained.
Find yourself in London, you must look us up.
I find myself in London as seldom as I can manage, Mr. Now, if I were to look you up, this Millennium Club,
Yes, that's where we can be found.
by any chance, do you ever frequent a bar called Downtime?
Oh yes, that's often where we are to be found as well.
Perhaps it might be better if I could correspond with you there.
Of course. And if you could give us a suitable return address.
The Axe and Flame
Wonderful. We shall
serves more or less as a post office.
correspond via our respective public houses.
Very well, yes. Do give Edward my regards, won't you?
Of course.
Ah, yes. So you're given the address. It's rather swanky part of London. Given the address of a one Professor Charles Kramer, who is a correspondent in London, who has been investigating the matter of the Nightmare Beast for. She gives you one piece of advice. He's an older gentleman, but he's got a rather gung-ho attitude about these. Please discourage him from joining you on any escapade. He has a remarkable imagination, but if the Nightmare Beast gets a hold of him, it would be like sugar water on an anthill. It is much better not to involve him directly.
We shall be most insistent then.
And you're sent back. Mr. Lurk naps on the way. So Mr. Lurk, this level 2 harm will require medical intervention. Because it's not level 3 harm, you don't exactly have like narcolepsy, but the drowsiness is extreme. As you can see, the effect of a level 2 harm is -1 die, and this is pretty much on anything.
Oh, good.
So what it will require is medical attention, which I suspect is Mr. Leech.
I also have a nurse wife.
And you have a nurse wife. That's very true. There are all sorts of remedies that could help you out with this. I'm sure there's something in between coffee and cocaine that will do the job, but coffee is available in most shops and cocaine is available over the counter anywhere. It will be a downtime action to heal.
Perfect.
Okay. So they are on their way back. Let us take ourselves elsewhere, shall we? In a broad stone chamber, lit by unwavering white light, a velvet-robed figure attends to segments of a mystic circle. More strange symbols that few alive could comprehend, some connected to others in the previous segment. When the drawing is done, the robed celebrant abruptly stands, lifting its arms skyward. Somewhere we cannot see in the room, there is a curious sound like a small animal panicking and protesting. Sound does not last long and is ended in an instant. Hear me, Euros, he who stands without the seasons, master wind, storm-bringer. I evoke thee with thy threefold name, Io Eros, Io Volturnus, Io Apeliotes. I bind thee by the authority of the Archer King, Ego te Sagittario te Vincio. As these words are spoken, in the parks and avenues of London, a breeze begins to stir the budding branches, and the gathering storm clock gains its second segment.
Ah,
So, downtime. I know it doesn't feel like you did a score, but you absolutely did. So you are entitled to downtime. What I should do, I meant to do this, I'll do it for next time, is put up on the Roll20 screen your list of downtime, so that you can fluently. Although, do familiarize yourself as well with the document. You might come up with something I haven't. Downtime. So yeah, who would like to downtime first?
I'm happy to.
Anwar Jaffrey, yes.
It's much the same as the last downtime. I'm going to be engaging in some. I don't have any stress. Well, I do have a little bit of stress, but nothing too bad. So I'm going to be engaging in some prowess training, and I'm also going to go on the continuation of the Big Book of McCreary. I am aware of
Yes.
the attune and the. I think I've got the eye, don't I? The orb, the spooky orb.
Yes.
But I am going to instead focus on my vengeance path rather than the spooktacular at the moment.
Perfect. So yeah, so you training's easy. You took 2 points. I think 2 points is actually enough to.
Oh, I had already put one in it, so
Is
I'll
it
put another
two?
one in it. It's two.
Because you've got enhanced training as part of your crew bonus, you
yeah.
get 2 experience points instead of 1 in everything except personal, unless you took.
we haven't yet.
No, you haven't yet, because last time you took having a specialist crafting on that street. Yeah, so that's easy peasy. You get 2 marks of training in that.
Delicious.
And now a long-term project. So it's probably a study.
Oh, do a study.
It could be a study, or could be a survey. It could be a hunt. Actually, it could be any of those three.
I think I've used survey. I definitely used something. I had a thing in
Any
the
of those 3 work, because they're all to do with that activity, depending upon what exactly you do. So yeah.
Controlled standard.
Yeah, controlled standard.
2 and a 4.
A 4, fantastic. So, 4 gets you 2 ticks on the clock.
Heck yeah.
So that gets you more than halfway.
Oh no, it doesn't. I filled that out.
Oh, I see. I do
reduce it by 2.
I do apologize. I shall stop interfering in your
No,
business.
it's quite all right. I'm an honest man. I wouldn't let that pass. I'm not going to sneak my way. If anything else, we've got an audience that can hold me to account.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. Before we do experience points for everyone, between last session and this, did anyone forget to log in and give themselves XP from last session? Did you all do that?
Ash did not.
Ash did not.
I didn't either. I forgot.
That's fine. That's
I've done
fine.
mine.
Let's do that now, and then we can separate it from this session's experience. So, Mr. Leech, last session, you didn't roll any desperate actions. We tend to do that immediately. Did you address a challenge with technical skill or mayhem?
I don't think I did a lot that session, to be fair.
Okay. Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Not that I can recall.
And did you struggle with issues from your vice or traumas?
Nope.
Okay. Easily peasily. Mr. Spider, last
Hello.
session. Hello there. Did you solve any problems with calculation or conspiracy?
I reckon I did. I reckon I did.
Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Enough, I think, to merit XP.
Okay. And did you struggle with issues from your vice or
I wouldn't say I struggled. I freaked someone out, but that was just for me.
Lovely. Okay then. So let's deal with experience from this session. Let's start with Mr. Hound. Today on this particular day, did you address
I have only marked one,
which is
for expressing beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, which is I squeak that one through because in the pub when I was speaking to the grizzled stranger, there was that moment where I was like, I'm very used to being looked down on myself.
no,
But I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think anything else is applicable.
Okay. Fine. Mr. Lurk,
Yes.
do you feel that you addressed a challenge with stealth or evasion?
For today's session or last?
Today's. Did you do? Did
Today's.
you do your?
Oh,
your...
right. Yeah, I did mine for last
Okay.
time. For today, I don't think that I did.
Okay. Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Negative.
I think it's safe to say you struggled with issues from your vice or traumas because in the attempt to express affection to your wife, you've given yourself harm. So that's definitely, in my
Being a
view,
wife guy is hard.
yeah, I believe that it's your opinion that matters, but I
Every
think that
fucking
earns
day.
you an
It's all
experience
day,
point.
every fucking day. I'll tell you that much.
Cynical Mr. Hound. Mr. Leech. Hello, Mr. Leech. Did you address a challenge with technical skill or mayhem?
Would that...
You
You did.
Yeah,
Techni-
yeah. What does technical skill?
like your chemistry skill you used to help repel those hounds.
Okay. Yes, I suppose so.
Yes, you did. Suppose so.
I guess.
I guess I technically did that. Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background? I think you did. I think your drive as a doctor to go and attend the old woman, notwithstanding the fact that it's a deeply spooky and suspicious situation, counts as expressing your background.
Would that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's another XP there.
Or is that?
Remember, these are, so this is down at the bottom where it says
Yeah,
playbook
no.
advantage.
I don't know if that would be in heritage or background or obligation.
What do you mean? You just mark a personal XP.
No. But like, okay, never mind. Because there's a second one, like struggle with issues of your vice.
Yeah. Do you think you struggle with issues from your vice or traumas?
I have an obligation for medical care, so.
But you didn't indulge that.
No, okay. Oh yeah, that's fair. No.
And nor did you indulge your other vice. How could you have done?
Well,
That would have been very that would have been a very awkward carriage ride, I think. Just everyone sitting there while you indulge that particular vice. Very, very awkward.
Oh yes, Mr. Leech's desire to get naked at all times.
Ellie Carver's other vice is administered by the Drury Lane Madam, Agnes Derrycourt.
What can I say, ladies and gentlemen?
So it would have been very difficult for her to indulge
Sex? Ew! In my gentlemen strangers, ew!
Miss
In our roleplay.
the Spider, on this particular session, did you address a challenge with calculation or conspiracy?
No.
Did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you struggle with issues from your vice or trauma?
No. I actually think it helped him today.
Okay. Fantastic. So that's done. And we've done Mr. Hound time.
Mr. Downs Hound time.
Mr. Leech, I'm picking on you. It's downtime time.
It's downtime, my dudes. Well, I would like to somehow research this formula thing that I've picked up.
Star of Silver.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I imagine it's going to take a while.
so let me make you a. I think this is going to be 10-second, quite an obscure thing. So you made some notes. You copied down various diagrams. Ooh. Now you didn't ask permission to do that, so I'm going to give you a choice, Mr. Leech. You can either spend 1 stress on a flashback to say that you did ask permission for that, or you cannot ask permission. That's up to you.
Write it like you stole it. Don't ask permission.
You don't want me to ask permission?
No.
Drive it like you stole it.
Or do. It's up to you, but I think it's funnier to not.
But she was
How would
next to
how would she
us.
even know that you had,
How would she even know? She'd have to be magic.
Yeah, and magic's not real.
Yeah, come on,
Magic
Ash.
isn't real. Ash.
Stop, because she said if I steal anything, it's going to be an ish. But I didn't steal the book.
We
You
didn't
didn't.
steal
You
it.
didn't steal
Didn't steal the book.
anything. She said you were
No.
free to read, and you read.
And Spider stole things with his mind. He stole
That's
knowledge.
that's
What is
right.
reading if not mind there?
Right.
I don't need
Terrible mind thief me. Lock me
So
up.
so you're just standing there at the photocopier, ignoring the copyright warning. That's fine. You're allowed to do that. I just want to check that's what you do.
What? I just wrote it down in my notebook.
Excuse you, there is a difference between copying down a figure and copying it literally an entire book page by page.
Okay.
That's how expensive the book is.
So
Yeah, I'm not going to spend the stress. I'm going to.
you stick
It's
to your
not theft,
principles.
It's
Okay.
knowledge.
Then,
Exactly.
when you get home,
Oh, fuck.
and when you get home and take out your notes, you find that you have drawn and written gibberish.
Just penises. You
I
know the
remember in my head, right? I remember some of it.
Yes,
I
Yeah,
remember the Star
that-
of Silver.
you remember that that's what it was called, and you have some memory of the you have some memory of the apparatus, and you have some memory of you know what the properties of it are. Like, you know what the reason that it attracted your interest was that it's as hard as steel but as light as pork.
Okay, that's basically what I've got written down anyway, so I'll take
So-
it, and I'm determined, so I'm gonna continue this.
So that's the consequence of that. You might find some way of what I'll say is I'm going to give you a second clock. I am going to give you a 6-second clock, which is unscrambling your Star of Silver notes,
I'm scrambling the penises.
unscrambling all the willies that you've drawn on
Very
this
good.
piece of paper.
Do that often.
Once you have broken the DRM, exactly. Once you have broken the DRM on this Kindle book, you will have a much easier time.
Right.
Basically, until you do that, all of your rolls for finishing the Star of Silver research will count as 1 tier less. So you'll have to roll much better to get anything done. And unscrambling, it's a 6. I'm not sure how you're going to do it. There are lots of ways you could try to do it. You could try something magical. You could. Bowman understands the secrets of Caliber. Yes, much profit is to be had this way. Or you could try something like maybe it's just to rearrange it so it's an anagram, and you've got like 3 pages of notes all anagrammed, and you've got to try and. I'll let you think of how you want to do that.
God only knows.
So
Should
basically,
take him a stress.
one's stressful. I mean, it's such a small cost.
So do I do
You have a choice. You can either try to do research on the Star of Silver based on what little you've got, which is you can do that, or you can unscramble. You can work on unscrambling the notes, which are after all a direct copy of what you saw in the book.
I'm gonna try and don't know. Feel like leeches want to just throw themselves headfirst into something and possibly explode something. So I'm gonna just try and go for not even trying scrambling, descrambling, unscrambling.
You're just gonna raw dog it.
I'm gonna raw dog, ladies and gentlemen. What would that be?
So it sounds to me like you're gonna be consulting chemical textbooks and things that probably study. It could be, or you could try practical experiments, which might fall under maybe tinker.
Tinker would probably be the way they would go about it. And if something really bad happens, then they'll probably stop.
Okay, so here's what I think you do. I think you get some steel filing. You want to start with first principles. That's the scientific method, right? Boil it down. What are the properties of steel? So you get some silver filings and you subject them to various chemicals and heats and pressures. Let's find out what steel is. So it's a tinker, I think.
Tinker controlled?
Yeah.
Yeah. Standard.
Yep. Doesn't matter for this roll.
3.
It is a 3, but because you have not unscrambled your notes, that 3, sadly, a 1 to 3 gets you absolutely no progress whatsoever.
It's alright, okay.
So, yes, you dissolve steel in hydrochloric acid. You fail to dissolve steel in acetone. It doesn't really help you. But unbowed, unbent, unbroken. What's your second downtime action?
I think that's annoyed me, so I'll probably just put some XP into prowess, maybe.
Yep. Just put 2 XP prowess.
Boop. Done.
Perfect. Mr. Spider.
Hello.
It's downtime.
It's downtime, bitch.
Oh wow.
Do I have anything that I can be doing vis-a-vis any of the notes I took, or is that just a thing that's going to come in useful later?
So you have a lead, which is the... Hold on, you have a title of a book that is on the encoding of magical text. By Gideon Hecht.
Gideon Hecht. Okay, so I am going to therefore I imagine study. No.
And what are you going to study?
I'm going to try and find where one could get such a book from. Or is it?
So there are lots of ways you could do this. Personally, I think a consort is a good start, because that's talking to the librarians. Maybe putting a word out at the Aventine. I'm in the market for some rare magical books. Alternatively, it could be a study. I mean, that this suitcase full of magical books that you stole from the auction house is part of a much larger collection. So there's all sorts of other things.
Stick with consort. I haven't rolled consort for a while.
Okay, roll consort. A 6.
Ah, yeah.
That's very, very. So I need
Woohoo.
a clock for this. I didn't start a clock for this. You're finding a reasonably rare book. I'm gonna make that an 8 segment.
That's fine. I'm hunting rare books. That'll take me some time.
So that's a 6. Fantastic stuff. And a 6 gets you 3 ticks
Wonderful.
out of the 8 that you need. You're well on your way.
Superb. Then I should like to indulge my vice.
Yes. Good choice.
I think given the long evening that Mr. Spider had, and then therefore all of the extra research he's put on his plate, I think there's only one vice he can really indulge at this point in time.
I'm afraid so.
And that is, who needs sleep when you have a tincture of cocaine?
Well, indulge away. Delicious.
Delicious.
You have indulged. What did you get? You got a 5?
Basically a 5, and I can
And you can modify it, so yeah, perfect.
And I have functional vice, which means all Mr. Spider's stress is wiped out because he is like, you see him measuring out a portion and then he microdoses like a tiny more, and it's just like, yes, that is enough.
That was what I needed.
That
I've invented the milligram.
Milligram.
Perfect.
And for my third trick.
Okay.
which
You don't always do a third trick immediately, so forgive me for moving on.
Well, I think I was the last one to do a downtime, wasn't I?
No. Lurk has.
Oh, well, in which case, Mr. Lurk, are you likely to need more than 2 downtime actions?
I don't have anything like super special that I want to do, so you can go ahead and take it.
Okay. That's why I try to go last. I don't want to put pressure on people. Then I think I'm going to study insight.
Yeah. Get 2 XP and you can level something up.
Oh my god, what happens when that happens?
Well, you put another dot in hunt, study, survey, or tinker. Your choice.
I thought you had to level up all of them before you could start leveling up other things.
Nope.
Oh.
Why did you think that?
I don't know. Just thought that was the rule.
I don't care for it if that is the rule. No, you don't have to do that at all. You can specialize. You're thinking there's a line after the first dot. The reason there's a line after the first dot is because that's your score in the particular.
Oh, so if I want to level up my insight score.
Yes, if you want your insight to go to 4, you have to level up Tinker.
You know what? I want to level up Tinker anyway, and I think insight is a particularly Mr. Spider-esque.
Wow, insight 4. That's pretty good. Very good. Very nice indeed.
Mr. Spider.
Mr. Spider's pretty good at resistances. He's got insight 4, resolve 3. That's stuff.
Time to look at an orb.
Yeah, fantastic. So now.
So first what I'm going to do is present these flowers to my wife, tell her how much I love her, tell her that I got them from a wizard. And this wizard, because I was so daring and brave in getting these flowers from this wizard, that the wizard actually put a spell on me and just sort of sapped my life force. And so that's why I'm so sleepy.
Is someone drilling in the background?
What's happening?
My husband has decided, apparently, to vacuum downstairs.
Okay.
Oh.
He just began that.
Thanks,
Okay.
buddy.
It's perfect. Speaking of wife guys.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I apologize for that noise. So I present that to my wife, tell her this story that is half true.
So she's clued in then. She has reason to believe you might be telling the truth about meeting a wizard.
She knows that I do sketchy things. I think she just doesn't really. She's like, okay, honey, like, sure. So what I'm gonna do is hang out with her, ask her to use her talents as a nurse to help me rest. And I would like to get rid of this harm, if I may. Oh, it has stopped.
In which case, it's recovering.
Perfect.
And now, what is the tier of your wife? I guess
She's top tier. How dare you?
I guess it's your crew tier, so it's 1 die.
Do I roll that, or are you rolling that?
I will roll that.
Okay.
That's a 2. I bet you wish you'd rolled it now, don't you? That's a 2. Not the same.
She's just not a very good nurse.
Wow. Let me see. I think it's the same as a long-term project, actually. 1 segment. Yeah, you heal 1 segment. There you go. You have a second action, which you can use for the same thing if you like.
Well, yeah, fuck it. We're just gonna go full. We are going to spend the entire, what is it, like a week doing self-care. She's gonna be keeping me, in bed and like giving me foot massages and making me tea. It's gonna be super cozy. It's gonna be a staycation.
I have a devil's bargain for you that you're not going to take.
Oh no.
I have a devil's bargain that you're not going to take, and the devil's bargain is this. I'll give you an extra die on the healing roll if, in the course of your treatment, your wife turns to a flower. If in the course of your treatment, your wife becomes herself just a little bit drowsy, which will cut her off for the time being as a vice. Since she won't have the energy to go on any dates.
For the time being, what does that mean? Like, how long is that?
I'll 2 downtimes. Oh no, 1 downtime. 1 downtime. 2 downtimes is 2. 1 downtime. The next downtime.
So basically, what's happening is I've caught COVID. I have the long fatigue. In caring for me, my wife gets COVID, and now she's gonna have the fatigue.
It's very similar.
But
it's an extra die. I mean,
yeah, fuck it. She's the one who's taking care of me. She knows.
She knows.
It's fine.
She knows.
She knows.
You got a 5. Oh man, that's rough. You got 2 5s. It would have
is.
been a 5 anyway. Well, that's fine. Let me make a note of that. Mr. Lurk's wife unavailable. Okay, but you've rolled a 5, which is very good for you. You heal 2 segments, so you are still not, in fact.
It's fine. Okay. All this self-care, and he's still drowsy.
It's a mystical drowsiness. It's a magic flower. It was the only thing lower than like a 4 that we rolled the entire session for some reason.
Cool.
Yeah. That's both of your downtimes, isn't it?
That's it. Yep.
Let me have a quick check of something, because if I recall correctly.
Wait, so should I have used 1 less die for both of those rolls as well? Since I have the drowsiness?
No. I don't think you use. It's only for action roll.
Okay.
It's not 1 die. God, imagine if you were so injured you lost dice from healing. No, that couldn't possibly be the case. That couldn't
Stabbed
possibly.
yourself in the eye with a needle while stitching.
Yeah, that can't be right. There is something that you get for downtime. I just want to check. I think you get yeah, I know that. Do you have it? Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I'm trying to figure a system thing. Yeah, so just for everyone to note, because you're vigilantes, you have a special ability called As Good as Your Word. This is the reason you all have obligation as a second vice, but what you actually get for that is you can spend rep instead of coin in downtime action. So the most common cause for spending coin is getting a third downtime action. So you could spend rep to do that. If you want to, that's something you can all do.
That feels a little, I don't know, it feels selfish to use that just to make myself a little less sleepy.
As long as you have -1 die, the party has -1 die in its Lurk's ability. I mean, it's not selfish at all.
Dragging around Mr. Sleepyhead.
Yeah.
Basically, you'll get so much foul comments from Ash as long as you've got this drowsiness.
Yeah.
Do some cocaine.
So using rep, what does that mean, like roleplay wise?
So roleplay wise, it might be something like using the crew's contacts to get a bit of cocaine, or might be something like you need some kind of favor or some kind of supplies or something like that, and you're staking the you're going, we're good for it, we're good for it, that kind of thing. Just convincing someone that your money's no good with them.
Yeah, fuck it. I will, I think go get some cocaine, which I don't know that Mr. Lurk has ever done. So that'll be an adventure.
And I think with Mr. Lurk, maybe it makes sense because yes, you could probably just go to a pharmacist to do it, but you think your wife would probably worry if she found out that that's what you were doing.
This is entirely under, like, he's telling his wife, oh yeah, I feel a lot better. I'm just gonna go out for some coffee.
So yeah, you can make another healing roll. Do this.
Gosh.
I'm trying to think of another really evil devil's bargain.
His wife finds out and leaves
him.
No,
I know. No, actually.
His wife is the drug dealer.
Does this matter?
It's Breaking Bad.
I was trying to think of a devil's bargain where Mr. Spider, you inadvertently get it from Mr. Spider's supplier, and he figures it out. I don't think that would matter. Never mind. We'll forget about that.
Okay. That at least gets me one, right?
That in fact gets you one. So, because you have completed a healing clock, your level 2 harm drowsy is moved down to level 1 harm tired. Which means that you get lesser effect on things that fatigue. Which is quite a lot of things. Not everything, but it's quite a lot of things.
And now how do I deal with that?
That's more healing.
Jeez. Oh, okay. All right.
When you take a consequence,
I may have made a mistake.
So what happens with harm is usually resisting a harm will move it down a tier. And obviously, it's level 1 harm. That means you can mitigate it completely. But it does mean spending stress. I mean, you say you made a mistake. You could easily have ended up spending 6 stress to avoid this consequence. I don't think you would have liked that very much. So it's not necessarily a mistake. It really is your judgment, and this might have been the right call.
What we're learning is that fatigue is really nothing to mess with, and you should take care of yourself.
Yeah,
At all, listen to your body.
Yeah, what we've learned is, flowers can really mess you up. Flowers are bad news, gang.
Just don't do anything nice for your spouse.
Flowers, not even once. Wife, not even once. Nathaniel Breaker, eternal bachelor, quite under. Okie dokie. So, I think that will be that for the time being then. You can join us on Sunday the 13th of November for the next thrilling installment of The Gentleman Strangers, where the Gentleman Strangers will be investigating the case of the Nightmare Beast.
Which just sounds great.
And seeing what is going on. Yes, a hunt of a different kind. Very, very interesting. So, all that remains for me to do is to thank our wonderful patrons for their very generous support, who are Andrei Cherepnin, Araloki, Dinkledor, Eligos Alexander, Henry Prestige, James Malloy, Joe, Ken Poyner, Michael Bowman, Mike Fielding, MWKilburn. We need to seriously winnow this number of mics. Photosynthetic, and the Armchair Egyptologist, whoever that is. Thank you all so much, except for those of you who are me. And I hope you all have a very pleasant couple of weeks. If you've only just joined us and want to watch the whole thing, keep an eye out on our Discord and Twitter. I'll be doing the VOD at some point in days. Until then, thank you very much to Zoe and Izzy and Ash and Mike for joining me for more Gentlemen Strangers, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Arrivederci.